Hello, everyone. Let me transition over here because Jessie likes transitions. Transitions are good. Hello, everyone. How is everyone? Oh, where's the music? Let me put on the music. Put on music. Where's the music? No music. Come back. Ooh. I'm already gonna tell. So I was filming a video today. I was filming a video about James Gunn today. Why is there still no music? Can you not hear that? Wait, is it? Okay, there we go. I was filming a video today, and it's a 26-page script because Jessie likes to talk a lot. But my voice is actually hurting, and this is the first time I stopped recording like 2 or 3 hours ago, and I had some tea to help my voice. But now just talking, I'm like, ooh, my voice is still a little bit sore. So apologies if I'm my voice is a little bit off tonight, and if I need to cough a minute or two because I got a sore throat. But how's everyone doing tonight? Don, how are you? Cyberquaker, good to see you, my friend. Athelius, Adrian, Books Trek. Your name already makes me like you a lot. Jessie Jen has been filming for 47 hours already. God, no. I'll show you. In fact, I'll show you what I was filming today if all of you want to see. I want to show it off because I had some fun. The video I was doing was a video about James Gunn's filmography. I talked about it a while ago, and actually I actually filmed this whole video before, but I looked at the footage and I didn't really love the footage. The footage was kind of meh. My costume and my cosplay didn't really look too good to me, so I reshot it and I built a set for it, and I really am happy with how the set came out. So it was a really long video, and it's a 26-page video. It goes through James Gunn's entire filmography, and talking about the Peacemaker show, and it's sort of analyzing his filmography through the lens of like masculinity and what he has to say about masculinity, because I think there's some really cool stuff that he says about like empathy for people that are often cast out as villains because they display toxic masculinity and how we can heal from that. Anyways, so I think it'll be a fun video that'll sort of discuss some of that stuff. And so I was just filming all that today, but I'm just like, my voice is just doing that. And I'm also a little bit tired, so we'll see how long I end up streaming today. I'll try for an hour or two. But I am a bit tired, but I think it'll be fun. Oh, Bellamy, yes. By the way, I saw your email today, and I meant to respond to your patron message too, but I got lost there too. But yes, no, I am down for that, Bellamy. We will figure that out. I just been busy. Life is too hectic, but we will figure that out, Bellamy. So it's good to see you, my friend. Mac the Knife, how do you put out videos as frequently as you do? Don't have a life. That's the answer. Just don't have a life. No, I mean, the actual answer is, I don't know. I just, I like producing things quickly and things like that. I want to try and slow down more. I mean, I've talked about this in other streams, and it's going to happen soon, where I want to slow down more to make my videos better and, like, do better work. Not that my videos are bad, but I want to, like, pursue doing more. But I think a lot of it's also just, like, getting faster at stuff. Like, I'm a fast editor. I've created a lot of shortcuts in my editing, presets, and, like, saved things, and I know what I'm trying to do. And you just like streamlining the process, like knowing your order and your production pipeline makes it a little bit faster too. Plus, like, again, I'm a workaholic and I work fast, so that's the other answer. So, but yeah, Bellamy, we'll figure it out. But yeah, can I show you all before we get started on the game? Can I show you all some of the footage that I shot today? It's currently transferring over, but I think I can actually. Oh, it's just Abigail. I'm glad. Good to see you. Let's see. I want to show you all some of this footage really quickly, if you're okay with that. Okay, I'm going to show you all a shot of the set that I built, if I can pull it up. Currently, the files are currently copying over to my computer for backup, because I like to back them up, but I think I can open them up. Should be able to open them up while they're transferring, right? Will it let me? Or is it not going to let me? My computer may freak out and not let me. Oh, no, maybe I can. Maybe I can. Are you going to let me? What's happening? Yeah, here we go. Okay. Let's see if I can. Give me just a second. I'm going to show you. Oh, I was going to say, why am I hearing my own voice? That's the sound of the footage. I'm starting to hear my own voice. That shouldn't happen. Okay, let me show you what this looks like. Sorry, I got to make sure I can set it up. Where is it? No? Come on, where is it? I can do this. Give me just a second. Let's see. Remove that. Do a display capture. Give me all a second, everyone. It's Inception. Okay. So I'll do that. Put that over here. And then bring this over here. Can you see that there? Or does that need to be smaller? 1 second, everyone. So I'm just getting this all set up so you can actually see it. There it is. There we go. So that's good there. And then... let me see if I can put my face on here so you can actually see my reaction to it too. Video capture device. Do 5. There we are. Okay. Here we go. So I'm going to show you all. This is the video that I shot today. Right there. So, 1 second. Yeah. So, yeah. Look at this. Look at this. Isn't this cool? I think this is pretty cool, right? I think this is a pretty cool, like, little set that I built here. That reflects, like, Peacemaker. It's supposed to reflect Peacemaker, hence the American flag. Obviously, I'm not the biggest U.S. fan here, but I think that this is really, really cool. Like I have the Alice Cooper thing there. This is an Alice Cooper DVD or a VHS tape that's playing there. It's a little bit choppy right now because the files are copying onto my computer. But that was the Alice Cooper, like, concert footage was playing in the background of the video while I'm in there and everything. So you just see it. That's me, like, looking at my script because I have a transcript on there. But that's me just looking at the script and everything. So yeah, I think it's kind of fun. I'm really pleased with it. I still got to do, like, color correction and all that stuff to, like, beef up the color and everything. But I think this looked pretty cool. I was really pleased with it. This looks like it. Oh, thank you very much. Do you really want to taste it? Yeah, I know. I love it. And I got all the Suicide Squad dolls. I got, like, my King Shark over here. Got my girl Harley, Bloodsport and everything. I think it looks cool. I'm very pleased with how this came out. So yeah, I think it's cool. Let me transfer back over here. So you all got a little bit of a sneak peek of that video. That should be I'm very excited for how that video came up. And shout out to Aronok. I don't know if Aronok's in the chat. Aronok helped me with that script. So shout out to Aronok for helping with that script. So he does have a dirty onesie on in that Joel. I haven't actually watched that Alice Cooper video. I haven't, like, sat down and watched the whole video of it. But as I was filming, so, like, while I was resting my voice in between takes, I, like, looked over and I turned it up and watched the VHS tape of him. Like, dang, this is interesting. Like, it's an interesting documentary about Alice Cooper. I was like, dang, I'm learning some stuff while I'm also doing this, doing the video. It's kind of nice. Where do you get the money for this merch? That, Mac the Knife, is from patrons. All the, like, legitimately, I am able to buy all that stuff, like, the like, things and the stuff, is merchant, like, all that stuff for, like, sets and things is because patron support. Like, I have a bit of my patron money offset for paying my bills and things like that, and then another portion of it just for, like, tax reasons and things like that, I set aside for business stuff, and so that's what I write off on taxes and things. So if you're a patron, you're the one supporting me doing the weird sets like that and things like that. So thank you for being patrons and supporting me doing that. I appreciate that very much. But yeah, we all want to play some Horizon Zero Dawn. So, you know, see, Adrian, yeah, I don't really know much about Alice Cooper. I learned a lot about glam rock through Aronok. Actually helped with that part of the script, but also, like, doing research for James Gunn for the video. I learned a lot about, like, Alice Cooper and Motley Crue and a lot of, like, different bands that were referenced in Peacemaker. So I did a lot of, like, research on that, so I learned more. Hey, Aronok, yes. Do you want to come on? Because I'd love to have you on if you're up. Would everyone be down with Aronok coming on? Because I would love to have them on. If you're down, Aronok, I just want to make sure you're okay with it before I pull you out in the chat. Because if you are, I would love to have you. I just want to pull up my Discord. Where are ya? Aronok, where are ya? Why can I not see you on my freaking Discord here? There you are. Do you want to come on? I don't see you in the chat. Happy to come on. Okay. Let me before you do that, let me make sure it's not going to crash everything on my computer like it did last time. So let me just do that. Cool, you'll see that. I just got to move things around. All right, I'm going to call you on, let me figure this out real quick. Should be able to do that. Pull that down. All right, let me call you in. I'm going to call you in, everybody. Hey, can you hear me? And everyone should be able to hear you, Aaron, just so you know.
Finish typing a message.
Oh, perfect. Can everyone let me know if you can hear me and Aaron knock, and I'm just making sure you can see both of us. Why am I not able? Oh, that's why. That's why I'm not able to see myself. How are you doing, by the way? Fair enough. Fair enough. Absolutely fair.
I'm having a day. I'm trying to get this linguistics homework done.
Got it.
Before it's due, but it's not like super.
Like
I can chat while I'm doing it.
Gotcha.
I like chatting while I write. Like sometimes David J. Bradley and I'll just when we're both working on a script, we'll just hop in a call and like 50% of the time we're kind of quiet, but we'll usually chat while we're writing stuff because it just helps to like get you in that like weird flow state where you're not like super consciously thinking about every single word you're writing, but you're also like letting ideas just kind of and then you can get feedback right away. It's great because you can be like, does this sentence make sense?
Give me just a second, because I John, I'm glad you saw Coda. Sorry, I just want to get my video up because you can't see my pretty face just yet, so I need to figure that out.
I'll get my video up. It just takes me a...
Yeah, I think it's because my OBS is here. So can everyone hear me? I know no one can see me yet, but I will get all you so you can see me. And Aaron,
my camera's not on yet, so...
No, you're good. Mine, I'm just trying to figure out how I get mine up without...
Also, I'll explain why I have a little bit of makeup on my face in a second. It's just,
Oh, this is what I can do. Here's what I do. Okay, one second. Sorry, I can fix this. Video capture device. Sorry, my brain's doing two things at once. So there we. My giant face is on the stream. Hi, everybody. There we go. And then
earlier today,
there we go.
Foreign put out a cover of Everlong by Foo Fighters. It's one of my favorite songs.
Oh,
so
nice.
I just noticed, I was like, hey, would you mind if I just like threw my voice over top of yours and did it as a duet? And you know, Ron's was like, hell yeah, do it. So I edited my voice in with his, and but when I filmed it, I had the Foo Fighters symbol on my cheek, so that is still on my cheek, but it's like half damaged.
I love it. I love it.
Why? Also to explain, one of the members of the Foo Fighters passed away today. So.
I saw that. I did see that. Yeah. I'm not a, like I said, you know me, I'm not a big music person. I learned a lot of about glam rock with your additions to the script. But like I know like my pieces of it, but I did see that one of the Foo Fighters band members passed away.
So just as a small thing, you know, rest in peace, Taylor Hawkins. He's one of their drummers, and I've only ever heard good things about that band from people who've worked around them and interacted with them. So, but yeah, and also, you know, if you are, because he passed away from having a variety of different psychoactive substances and medicines in his system all at the same time. And I just want to say, as someone who's lost a few family members to addiction, if you're struggling right now, go get help. Yeah. And
for sure.
Like if you can get help, get help, because there's often helplines that are available in your state that might be able to get you some financial assistance if you need that. But yeah, and addicts are people, and most people become addicted due to sociological factors, not because there's some moral failing.
Yes, that is one of the biggest, because we always place addicts as like, oh, it's their fault, it's on them. Like, no, it's not a moral failing for numerous different reasons. There are numerous ways people fall into addiction, and it's not something to be vilified, but something to be helped, you know. So.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, it's often self-medication. I've known people who have ADHD who are undiagnosed and did meth on purpose when they were younger, self-medicate, because they couldn't get a hold of ADHD medications. So like, which I strongly do not do that, and they would all say you shouldn't do that. But you know, and I know people who've survived through the opioid crisis and stuff, and I just starting to get so dark so quick.
No,
Wow.
it's okay. I was
I
about to
didn't
say
need
too.
to.
I've
But, like,
had family members who have
but I
been
just-
addicted to
yeah,
opioids
I
as
just
well,
to
and
be-
it's yeah.
just to be a presence positive, like I've seen a lot of success stories. Several of my cousins who are like my siblings, you know, I saw them go through stuff where, you know, like I've had a period of my life where every day I was like, is this the day I get the phone call, you know?
Yeah.
So it does and can get better. There is help out there. You just have to reach out. So yeah, that's my little piece about drugs.
100%.
Also, drugs aren't evil by themselves, just to be very clear, because that's another weird thing that people do.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I feel like most people here get it, but yeah, I agreed with you. Also, I just want a quick call out. John, thank you so much for the super chat. You said, slight tangent, the post-apocalyptic RPGOs devising the Skyrim stream back in October is set firmly in the real world millennia for now with very few of any fantastic elements. That's awesome. That's really cool. I love hearing more about your design journey. That's awesome, John. Yay. I'm really glad. So Cade's asking you a question, and also, by the way, it's just Abigail. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. I lost a family member recently too, but not to drug addiction or a seizure. She had a disorder. I was really upset on the day. I have a history of something though, but I'm sorry for that. It's just Abigail. So thank you for sharing that and sending you love and appreciation for sharing that. So yeah, I'm seconding with Morgan. Hugs for anyone who needs it. So yeah, sending you love. It's just Abigail and anyone else who needs it right now.
To answer Cade's question, I unfortunately haven't seen Red Dwarf. I've heard good things.
What?
I know I should probably watch it at some point.
Okay, let me extol. Can I extol the virtue of Red Dwarf? It has.
Yeah, please go ahead. It's never been on a streaming service that I had, and it was never on TV when I was a kid. So I've never seen an episode.
I saw it when it was on It was on Netflix for like a hot minute.
In the US.
In the US. That would be why.
Canada, we have a different lineup.
You dang Canadians and your weird socialism stuff.
Oh God, no. Our
socialized medicine is what I meant to say.
We have one of the worst socialized medical care systems in the world, and it's leagues better than the U.S. Like that.
Believe me, yeah.
That's rough.
Yes, but no. Red Dwarf. I will say it has not aged perfectly. There are the very 80s, 90s transphobic jokes and things like that. And I'm like,
what has?
Yeah, what doesn't? But that being said, it is such a great. It's like a great sci-fi slacker comedy. Like it's just like a really fun. Like it takes that slacker comedy sort of idea and places it into very high concept sci-fi ideas. That is just really fun. And then Arnold Rimmer. He's like the asshole, pompous, full of himself kind of character who I just love to hate. He's like a comedic Rodney McKay from Stargate, and I love Rodney McKay. I don't know why I'm drawn to the asshole scientist characters who eventually learn to be better.
Rodney is comedic. He's not.
He is comedic.
Purpose.
Yes.
He is often the butt of the joke, but I fucking love Rodney. You know what?
Rodney's great. I adore Rodney.
Rodney is one of the best pieces of Canadian representation because it understands that Canadians can be massive assholes, especially.
He's a nuanced Canadian.
Pompous men, and I as a Canadian, I'm like, I know that guy. I have met that guy.
I will be fair.
I love Rodney. I think Rodney's a really, really, really complicated character who goes through a long character arc throughout the seasons of unlearning toxic masculinity, and I think he's actually a really, really positive role model for men to look at, because his first appearance, he's just a pig. He's just a sexist pig in SG1, and
he's just there to hit on Amanda.
Just horrid to Amanda, and the reason I like Rodney is I hate him in that episode. He sucks.
Oh yeah.
But he's a human being, and he's fucking written well, and he develops as a human being, and I think it's actually really valuable. I would like to see more stories that have men.
I mean, that's why I wrote the James.
Learn from it.
That's why we did the James Gunn video, right? It's all
James
about that
Gunn's
same thing.
Cool. Yeah. Sort of actually, we should talk about the James Gunn video because I.
Yeah, did you see the image that I did? Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm
Much
very
scripted.
yeah. You helped a lot. Like I'm also
Yeah.
being used like co-writer on it because it was very very helpful. A lot of your thoughts. So yeah, it was. I'm very pleased with. But I also want to end on with Rodney McKay before we jump to the James Gunn video because I'm happy to talk about that. But Rodney, one of my two things that I will say about Rodney. One of my favorite episodes is the one, speaking of toxic masculinity, where he gets trapped underwater and he has like the fantasy version of Amanda Carter.
It's so good.
It's a great episode that also highlights the place where he's like going between, like, he still objectifies her and still fantasizes about her, but then he also starts to humanize her in those moments too. And it was such a really good one. And then I also love like claustrophobic episodes like that. And then two, this is like me being a dumb kid, but it was the first Stargate Atlantis was like the first show where I was like, oh, Canada does things too. Because I would always see them with the Canadian patch on their arms, and I was like, oh no, that's right, Canada exists. Because I'm an idiot kid who forgot that Canada was a thing because America. All we teach in the United States is that America is the only thing that exists to American kids. So I just always thought that was funny. And you're not laughing, so it feels awkward now. Now I feel like Canada phobe.
No, you're all good. You're all good. I was responding to a more serious. Lady Knight and I were discussing more serious topics.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I totally knew you weren't not laughing at me. It was just like, and I was like, Canada's guy forgot that Canada. It was just silence. So I'm like, well, guess I'm an asshole to Canadians then. That's fine. I love you. If you're Canadian out there, know that I love you and adore you, and I'm the idiot, not Canada. Though Canada can be awful as well, but not for this reason. So
Canada's fucked up in a lot of ways. Like I could.
We don't need to necessarily. You know.
I'm just gonna say like one really quick thing, which is that Canadian politicians keep their job by being not as bad as the U.S. I'm gonna be straight up. Like this is if you watch enough Canadian politics, and listen to enough Canadian politicians, that is a common line you'll hear. We're not as bad as the U.S. Well, at least it's better than the U.S. You know, it's like.
I don't think we should be a bar to be jumping over.
I don't think the U.S. should be the bar that you base anything off of. You know, like it's that's not a great bar.
No,
what's acceptable to do?
It's not even really a bar. I'm pretty sure the bar is just lying on the floor and you can just sort of step over it. Is what that bar is all you're doing with that. But yeah, no, I do kind of get that. Yeah, like Canada also has its own a lot of problems, and yeah, it's better than the United States. But again, that's not really saying.
I mean,
anything.
it's like saying getting stabbed in the leg is better than getting stabbed in the gut. I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to be stabbed in the leg. That's no stabbing.
To be fair, you did. I will agree with Rowan and a few other people that you did give us Schitt's Creek and Elliot Page, and I guess also I guess William Shatner's Canadian too, so I guess there's that.
Yeah, he fucking.
Yeah, that was.
Sucks.
Yeah.
William Shatner's like the Canadian Jake.
He's not that bad, to be fair.
He's not that bad, to be fair.
He's
but
more.
He's one of the most prominent Canadians to just say some real bigoted shit on Maine.
Yeah, unlike J.K. Rowling, who is like actively targeting like trans people and like leading a part of a hate movement, like William Shatner is just more like old man, like horrible. You know what I mean? I get the vibe of like he's just an older dude who just says horrible things. I mean, he's 91. Like. Fine. Send him to space, make him happy, and that's fine. Not to give him a pass for being an awful human being. Obviously, I am less concerned with William Shatner being an awful person than like J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, he's not funding hate groups. I was making a dumb joke, to be clear.
No, I get you. I wasn't.
I shouldn't have used that word. Sorry, I apologize. Unlearning ableist language takes effort, even for disabled people like myself. But
I agree with you, John. Call him the Shat. He is the Shat.
Shat.
He's the Shat. To be fair, he's gonna be
angry at these people using the term cis. How dare they?
Using cisgender. I am so offended. Oh my god. He's gonna be at the Star Trek convention I'm going to in next month, and I'm like, oh god, no. But I just want to go meet. Let me just go meet Tawny Newsome and Kate Mulgrew. I'm more than that. Like I have no desire. Oh,
it's
Andrew Clegg, thank you so much. Hey Jesse, a new person. Aronach, brand new to Aronach. Very happy to see new faces on this channel. I'm happy that Jesse has so many friends. Yes, thank you for being here. Also, everyone should go subscribe to Aronach's channel. And I think someone mentioned it in the chat. I'm gonna promote you for a hot second. Aronach released a video about the Matrix that is absolutely freaking fantastic. If you liked my Matrix video, go watch Aronach's because theirs is better. They have animations and shit, and it's wonderful. It's a really, really good video, and I was very excited to watch it and help with that in small. I only smelled in hallways.
You're in it.
Yeah, that's right. I am in it, so I'm very pleased to be in it.
Yeah, I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of that film. I think it's a
And thank you, Morgan.
thing. Just to address one thing in chat. Tanky's a meaningless word that gets randomly thrown around by people who just want to say, no, I don't like this leftist, they're tanky, and I've never seen a coherent definition of what it means.
Speaking of tanky, on that front, I would just to promote Sophie from Mars's new video, Conspiracy on the Left.
Everybody should watch it.
You should go watch that.
That video, I've said it multiple times. It's a video that's one of those things where it's like this. It's like a thing that I've been thinking about a lot, but I don't have the skill set for this, I don't have the time to learn the material properly to be able to write something about this. So seeing a release that's made me really happy. And just as a note, I think like Lady Knight's talked about this, but the video does a really good job of addressing how much anti-Semitism underlies these conspiracy theories and how much it's a problem on the left as well. And I would just say that like that video should be mandatory watching. There's a couple videos out there that I think really are just like everyone should have to watch them.
It's a great foundational video.
The entirety of Innuendo Studios' alt-right playbook. You should watch both of those. They'll give you a really good understanding of a lot of the way that online political discussion occurs and behaves. And yeah, like I think.
It's a great.
Words of Abigail Thorne. It's important to sometimes take a squat and look at your own ideology.
Yeah. No. Well, two things first. Hantas, thank you so much for your super chat, and Mac, thank you so much for your super chats. You're both lovely. But yeah, no. Speaking on Sophie's video, like I just finished it this morning, and I was just sort of struck. Like it feels like one of those it's a video that feels like such a great primer because. I was like vaguely aware. I mean, I'm more interested in talking about like these trans-specific issues and like Star Trek and nerdy pop culture stuff. So like I was vaguely aware of like all this stuff, but like Sophie just did a great job of like drawing it all together into one video that like talks about all these issues about like what we talked about with like Vosh and other streamers and things like that, and like the conspiracy theory left and Jimmy Dore. Like she just did a fantastic job of just taking all these things and talking about them in a way that feels comprehensible and providing a framework for us to like I think just as an online community move forward to like have a framework for discussing these things, not necessarily even a screw these people sort of way, though there is elements of that. It's just more just like having these discussions. Now we have a basic vocabulary to do so, which I think she just did a great job doing.
Yeah, and I think it's such a powerful video, and I think it's a really important one. And watch it critically, like Sophie. I was in the chat while she was doing her stream after the video was out, and as they were saying, like she wants people to watch it critically and examine it and question it and be a part of that conversation. So like, yeah, go into it and like really engage with it on a full level.
Well, the best creators I feel like create. Sorry.
I think one of the best parts of that video is the very start where she purposefully makes up a lie to kind of draw the audience in and show you how it works. And I think I can't remember. I was like a couple sentences into her doing this where I was like, "What the fuck's going on? Like, why is somebody saying this?" Like, I was like, "This is weird."
It's a powerful opening.
It's a great video. It's such a powerful video and so well paced. Like it does not feel like 2.5 hours.
No. That's always a good sign. I feel like some of my videos are 2.5 hours and you feel it, and then Sophie's are like, dang. I'm like, oh wow, I will follow you for 2 hours about Resident Evil. Like she just does a good job of pacing her videos.
Oh totally. Like I try really hard with my pacing. Like My favorite compliment I've gotten one of my favorite compliments I've gotten on the Matrix video, and it has 100% to do with who was saying it, but Maggie Mayfish really liked the Matrix video, and so we were messaging, and she described it as a high-speed train of knowledge. Like that it just, and I'm so happy with that, because that video, I I agonized over every little thing, like just trying to keep it as quick and dense and because I wanted to never let the audience even have a second to like before it's like it's really hammer home how trans the film is by having so much and just so densely packed and then just choosing
like
the best
drop the encyclopedia on someone's head, and it was great.
Yeah.
I loved it.
I love that video. I'm endlessly proud.
You should be. It is very, very good. It is so incredibly good. And also, Andrew Clegg, thank you so much for switching your credit card with your super chat. I appreciate it.
And continuing in the classic tradition of Aronok never does the same thing twice in a row ever. My next video is a completely different vibe, but I'm really excited about it. And it is a complimentary piece to the Matrix, because the Matrix videos is like it's 10 things in one. It's a film, and I describe it as a film for a reason. It has a narrative and it has a purpose, and I think that often we treat YouTube as if somehow our art is lesser, and I refuse to view it that way. I made a feature-length film. Yes, it's discussing another piece of art, but like.
That's what there's there's professionally released in film fells. Yeah, like yeah. Like one of my favorite docs is the one about the Alien movie. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, go ahead.
I was just saying one of my favorite works of as I run through things. One of my favorite docs is there's a doc about the Alien movie. So like documentaries about films and analyzing films are still films themselves. So yes,
exactly.
You should describe your stuff as a film.
Well, and there's tons of art that is a metatextual conversation about a different piece of art. like it's in some ways doing the same types of things that Neil Gaiman does in certain videos. That's an interesting question, Kate. Ayn Rand is one of the worst authors of all time on a pure technical level, but also on like an ideas level, which just painful. It's
just like, yeah. I started reading The Fountainhead, and I'm like, I can't. It's so dry painful. And boring. And then the ideas are.
Every sentence is just like I would say that if people want to experience Ayn Rand in a semi-comprehensible manner,
just play BioShock.
Well, no, because BioShock's a critique.
I know.
Like a work that genuinely loves Ayn Rand is. I think Zack Snyder's filmography is a fascinating look into the mind of someone who likes Ayn Rand and understands little to nothing about what its implications are. Zack Snyder is the most fascinating filmmaker to me of all time.
He is.
Not because I like him.
We talk about it.
But I find him fascinating endlessly because he half of it, like he has no self-awareness about the espoused political views of his own films. It's so self-contradictory, and it's fascinating. It's like this man watched The Watchmen and got the opposite message, but then at the same time, he'll come out and denounce a lot of the people that are those diehard fans that follow him because of those political messages as being shitty people. And it's such a weird dichotomy. I think someday I'll do a video about Zack Snyder. It's just I need to find the right angle where I'm not retreading
Maggie
Sophie or Maggie's videos.
Yeah.
Because they do such a good job, and I think I want the reason I want to wait is he's been improving. I want to be clear, improving doesn't mean good, but I do think he's been improving in some ways
clearer.
In the political. But he's still like not good at it. Like he wanted to make a feminist film, and instead what he made is one of the most anti-feminist films of all time, Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch is a horrid film in the way that it objectifies women. But I don't think Zack Snyder's a malicious person.
No, I don't
think he maliciously makes his art. I just think his art is malicious.
I think
it's weird.
My thing is I think he is someone who has a lot of, how best to describe this? He is someone who I don't think really understands much more beyond the surface value of things, but he is able to utilize like visuals and language from things that have much more depth to them without really understanding how he's wielding them or what they mean. But he only reads the shallow.
Is best described, in my opinion, as he's a 13-year-old going, look at this cool thing I found.
Mm-hmm. The best way,
but he doesn't understand that so he's like, the fountainhead's really cool. I like that. It's cool.
Yes. Yeah.
But he doesn't understand the fountainhead or what it's saying, and the same goes with like his view on all sorts of stuff. Right? He uses Christian imagery because he thinks it's cool. I think a lot of his very Islamophobic imagery, I don't think he understands the implications of what he's copying, because he uncritically recreates other people's political art without understanding the politics of it, and in so doing recontextualizes them into this very specifically white Christian right-wing framework. And I think that the film that most closely managed to not do that heavily or try to do different is his most recent film, Army of the Dead, which not a good film.
I was gonna say Jet Reno. Tig Notaro's great in it.
Tig Notaro is the best part of that film, and I want to point out that he recast a dude for being a shitty bigot, and a creep, and specifically recast with a badass lesbian. That's pretty fucking cool. I think, like, and this is what I mean by, like, I don't think Zack Snyder's a bad guy.
I just don't think he understands it.
Harmful. Like, I don't think he understands that his art is harmful.
It's one of the best ways I can describe it, and this is like it's still obviously political, but in a less like overtly politically charged way. Is if you look at like 300. Right?
Yeah.
Like that movie is such a homoerotic movie, and yet I don't think he understands how homoerotic it is. Like I don't think he set out to make a very homoerotic film, but he plays it so earnestly that it's just like the gayest film I have ever seen in my life. And
and the other layer of it is that 300 was used by the American military to jazz up American soldiers to go murder brown people in the Middle East. That is what that film was used for. Like, explicitly. And I don't think Zack understood that's what he was doing. Same with, like, if you look at his Army of the Dead, right? The opening montage, and
you're fine. Also, I know I missed a couple super chats, so I'll address those in just a second. But yes, I see your super chats, Andrew and Brutus. So apologies. But
a lot of Zack Snyder's changes to James Gunn's script, I think, actually made the film much worse than its political message.
Oh yeah, no, we talked about it. You added that to the to the James Gunn script. You talked about how Zack Snyder made a joke about homophobia into just homophobia within Dawn of the Dead. So.
Exactly, and it's so fascinating.
But I don't even think it was intentional. I just think it's like he didn't understand. I just don't think he gets it.
Yeah, I don't think he gets it. But he just recreates what's going on around him, and it's fascinating.
But yeah, let me just say really quickly here. Andrew Clegg, you're asking Ayn Rand or J.K. Rowling who's the better author. They're both like, I mean, J.K. Rowling is the better like author in terms of writing ability, but they're both also awful. J.K.
Rowling's coherent.
Yeah, J.K. Rowling can at least be entertaining.
Not good. But like.
But Brutus, he said, America, boom, kapow, bow, fuck yeah, my DK is an aircraft carrier, yeah, us. Also, hi, Jessie, fellow person from Awesome Land. I was assuming you were just talking about Zack Snyder, but yeah, I just making, I love that. That was great, Brutus.
That's good. Yeah, but to talk about the Dawn of the Dead changes, so the opening montage of Dawn of the Dead sort of connects people specifically praying at a Muslim mosque to the zombies, and I think that's really relevant in a film that kind of props up Christian like imagery. And I don't think it's because Zack Snyder sat down and said, I'm going to villainize Muslim people. And I want to be clear, I don't think it matters. Like, and this is a thing that I've talked about before with like intentions matter little when the audience that hears it is still going to use it to prop up their bigotry. Like. I think that 300 is still a harmful Islamophobic film, regardless of the fact that I don't think it really matters that Zack probably didn't intend it, but beyond the individual care of Zack Snyder as a human being, you know?
Yeah, I'm not here to like hate on
I-
him as a human being, but it's still like we still need to talk about the harm he's caused, and is able to perpetuate by able to be getting to make more films.
Yeah, and it's exactly what I talk about at the start of the Matrix when I do the Matrix video like film where I talk about the Wachowskis' racism is it's just that like harm is more about it needs to be, I think, in conversation more about how it affects the victims than the intentions and morality of the perpetrator. I think we have this sort of obsession, and I think it comes from a sort of white supremacist tendency to focus on the feelings, emotions, morality, and needs of the person who has done harm rather than on the emotions, needs, and what is best for the people who have been harmed. And when we're having these conversations, I think too often people kind of show their hand a little bit by being obsessed with like how marginalized people are behaving towards the person that's done harm, and I think it comes from a place of unexamined bigotry to a degree. And that's not like me being like, oh, you're evil. Again, bigotry isn't like some magic moral essentialism. It's not. It's about a pattern of behavior and bias that is taught to you by society. Bigotry is created and crafted and molded, and we'll get to it when we talk about Peacemaker in a second.
Yep.
But I think we need to really move on past this constant obsession with the feelings of the person that did the harm, and focus more on like what is best for the people that they have harmed or might potentially harm in the future.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, jumping into that, like, that's why I wanted to talk about James Gunn and, like, why I wrote the Peacemaker. I was so, like, initially the video was just going to be on Peacemaker, but then it, like, evolved into, like, talking about James Gunn, because I think James Gunn, like, acknowledges this throughout his whole work and, like, starts to, like, you see the recognition of this through his work as he starts to develop as a filmmaker. But the whole point that I really loved about Peacemaker is it is a show about allowing Chris, who is Peacemaker, John Cena's character, to have the grace to grow, yet it never lets him off the hook for being accountable for his harm and his actions.
It's never doing the thing of like, oh, you've done XYZ good things, now the harm you did in the past is suddenly
it's
erased.
all said and good. Yep. You need to continue to. And it's something like we discussed, like a lot of our media today. We look at, like, I make the connection in the video about like Star Wars. Where like, oh, we are able to redeem these like fascist characters like Darth Vader by like they do one good deed and then they die, and then like they're redeemed in the eyes of everyone because they're dead and they don't have to like stick around and like do the hard work of continually earning the redemption that they were trying to seek. Whereas with Peacemaker, like, it's a show where it's like he has done harm and he is acknowledging it and trying to move forward. Like, the whole arc of the first season is him coming to recognize the harm that he's caused and like and trying to put an end to it, but also recognizing that like it doesn't just go away. You like, because you did harm does not mean it just instantly like wipes away the history of that. And we talk about that within James Gunn's history too. Like, as a person, like as a filmmaker, he recognized, like, what I really appreciated about him is like he did harm with his like edgy shitlord humor that he did after his from like the shit that he did from like the edgelord sort of stuff that he came out of. But he sort of acknowledged it and tried to move forward and apologize for it. And then when people came, when even though it was made from a disingenuous place, when he was like canceled and fired by Disney, his response wasn't like, this was a bad faith attack on me, which it was. Like, Mike Chernovich surfaced it in a bad faith attempt to knock him down. But he understood that even though the wielding of this background for him was done in bad faith, the actual things that he had done were harmful, and that his response to it was like, I take full responsibility for this. I acknowledge that I caused harm, and I take responsibility.
And that's the big thing. That's the big thing that I think what really frustrates me about a lot of people is that the only times when being a massive shithead keeps getting brought up over and over and over again with people is because they never do anything to show any sort of change or desire to change or action to change. And then they go like, oh, why didn't you do this with like these people? And it's like, because they clearly are putting in the effort to change. They're clearly putting effort into to differentiate themselves from their past, and they're working on it. And it's like I talked about this really extensively with the forgiveness section in my Midnight Mass video, and especially this entire conversation we've been having here, like I think people should go watch the Midnight Mass.
You should. It's
video,
a great. It's my second favorite video of yours behind the Matrix video, and that's saying something because you make good videos just generally. So it's a really good video.
Yeah, and that one was a tough one to make, but I don't believe that forgiveness is owed. I strongly disagree with this concept, and some people hear that and think what I'm saying is that like, oh, people can never change. The number of times I've had people accuse me of believing that people can never change really bothers me because, like, one, I have plenty of friends that I know who have had shitty viewpoints that have changed, but also two, I've had a lot of fucked up shitty viewpoints in my life
too. Yeah.
that I have learned from, and now like I am thankful that they haven't really affected many other people, and it mostly was just a deep level of self-hatred over my own experiences of being queer and disabled, right? But it did probably hurt people. Maybe I'm not fully aware of exactly how it did that, and I would, like, but even still, but also I in other ways I do know that I've hurt people in my life, and I take full responsibility. Like I'm not a perfect person, and well, going back to like the whole concept, no one should be. No one should be considered perfect. But when someone's never putting in any fucking work to listen, is never ever even slightly attempting to engage with the feelings, needs, or desires of the people they have harmed, then yeah, I'm gonna say they haven't changed because they haven't changed. Yeah. And often, it gets used as this weapon to try to make people like myself or other marginalized people look as villains. Well, they said sorry. Yeah, exactly. Where it's like, okay, and this is going to get into the second thing of the well, can I just say something on that real quickly? Please. And you might oh god, as I get murdered by the giant snake monster. On that note, like what people often don't understand when it comes to apologies is that apologies are earned, and like when someone says I am sorry, that is them asking for forgiveness, but that is just the first step in the arc of forgiveness. You have to acknowledge harm and ask for forgiveness, and then you have to do the work of earning that forgiveness, and then someone can, and then whatever person on their own individual level can forgive you or not, and that's also different for every person. And I say this in the video too, and then sorry, I'll let you keep going. But I say this in the video about James Gunn. Is like I talk about him and I say like this is the stuff that he did, this is the harm that he's caused to both people in his own life and then just in the greater world. Like I talk about his marriage and things like that. And how he's like working to earn that redemption. And for me, it's someone's like, I see that and I acknowledge it, and I think it's really cool that he's working to earn that. But I also say in the video, if you are out on James Gunn and thinks he's just like, you don't forgive him even though he acknowledged his harm and like move forward, that's okay. You don't have like, you don't owe James Gunn anything. The only thing you don't owe him is just treat him as a human being and don't like shit on him unnecessarily. But you don't owe him your attention, you don't owe him your forgiveness, you don't owe him anything. It's all about the fact that what I acknowledge about him is that he acknowledged harm, asked forgiveness, and then worked to earn it. And I think that that's the important thing. Yeah, and that's a huge part of like what my apologies. But I'm going to take this off into another direction. Yeah, please do. That, words in and of themselves are not are a form of action, but they're not a true meaningful action. They have to be actually backed up with other actions. In my Midnight Bass video, I'm just going to read a little bit of the section. Please do. I'm just trying to find a spot where I don't talk about the harder stuff. Well, no, I'm trying not to spoil the show. I'm trying to just talk about the details around it. Part of the show's message, which Mike repeatedly talks about in his essay on writing it, is the incredible power of forgiveness. It can be beautiful, and I believe this. No, I need to skip further. Sorry. Right. Many Christians and culturally Christian people view forgiveness as something that is morally owed, and that if you do not forgive, that's a personal failure. In the words of Alexander Pope, "To err is human, To forgive, divine. I remember growing up how the kids who harmed me would get the lightest amount of, that wasn't okay. And then the teacher, principal, authority figure would demand I forgive them, because if I didn't, then I was the bad one. At times, I would actually get punished for protecting myself, because bullying me was okay. I was bad, but me hurting them in self-defense was not. I always hated the scripture saying, if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also, because I don't think letting people abuse you is righteous, and I don't think forgiving them as they continue to harm you, and while they show you no remorse, is either. This idea that you have to forgive, that it is owed, and you are morally failing if you don't do it, is to me harmful. I don't know my abuser's forgiveness, and I will choose to give it if I want to, and when I am ready, not for them, but for me. I should not be expected to forgive people I know kept doing the harm they did to me to others, to be able to move on for myself. Fundamentally, my problem with this view of forgiveness is that it places the onus of moral responsibility on the person harmed and not the one doing harm. It ignores that it's a process that takes time, and trying to force someone to speed that up is not productive. As well, the placement of moral value creates a feeling of guilt in the person that was harmed. Frankly, I don't think we should be making people feel bad, because forgiving abusers is not something they're comfortable with. I think forgiveness is a choice, not an obligation. And when, but most importantly, if you choose to forgive someone, that is something for you to do for yourself, not for them. Not because you owe those who farmed you something. Some people take me saying these things as me being against forgiveness, but that could not be further from the truth. I just think it's more complicated and not to be thrown out lightly. At the beginning of section 2, I mentioned the first time I had someone directly say I didn't deserve to live. What I didn't mention was that in high school, that kid and I would reconcile our pasts, that after getting to know and understand each other, I would forgive them, that they were one of the first people I came out to. Forgiveness is wonderful when it occurs genuinely, and it's a choice, and especially when the other person recognizes the harm they did. It's incredible. I have forgiven a lot of people who have hurt me, but it shouldn't ever be an obligation. It should never be forced onto someone who's not ready, willing, or able to give it, but instead a process and a choice that is up to the victim. The show is clear that Christians are not some inherent evil, but that people use the religion as a weapon, and that the interpretation matters a lot. Lisa, one of the embodiments of positive Christianity, said to Joe, if God can forgive you, then so can I, and she, the person he hurt most, forgave him and encouraged him to be a better person. And then there's some other stuff that's more show specific, but the big point that I have with that section that's really important is forgiveness is a choice, it is a process, it is never owed, and
it's also ultimately for you,
and it's done for you. If someone has hurt you, you forgive them because you think that they have changed enough, and you can't, like, you can't undo harm, right? Like, I 100% Bellamy. It doesn't just get to go away. And guess what? When you've done the harm, that fucking sucks.
Yep. Oh, believe me. As someone who's it's one of those, all you want to do, especially if you have empathy for other people, is you just I just want to take it away. I'm sorry that I feel so bad, and you just want to take it away, but you would need to acknowledge that it's up to that person to accept whether or not they acknowledge that you did the harm or not. It didn't forgive you for it. Also, I do want to say I did see. I'm not going to address it right now because I want to continue this conversation. But Mac the Knife. Well, I'll say it too because I think it's irrelevant to what we're saying here. Yeah. Thank you so much for your super chat, Mac the Knife. And you said, I know I used to be an awful edgelord as an attempt to be one of the guys who had to take a lot of accountability. I'm still learning. Yeah, I mean, to a degree, I did that too. As someone who was deeply in the closet about being trans, I would say some shitty things when I was just among the dudes about girls in my high school class and things like that, because you thought it was just being one of the dudes, because that's how we were taught to exist. Oh, I'm just one of the guys. We're supposed to objectify women and treat them as shitty. It doesn't mean just because I can understand where that attitude came from my own internalized transphobia, from just culture teaching me that was how I was supposed to be, doesn't mean that it's not harmful and shitty, and that I don't need to acknowledge that I did it and perpetuated it. So yeah, I agree with you, and I'm glad that you're acknowledging it and moving forward too, because I'm right there with you, and I did the same thing. So sending you love, my friend.
No, it's the reality is it's impossible to go through life without really hurting someone at some point. That's just even if it's a minor amount of hurt that is done, and yeah,
it sucks, but I mean, to live is to.
Bellamy sums it up perfectly. Sorry.
No, Bellamy. Bellamy probably can
In
say
my
it better.
opinion, the most important thing about having caused harm is assuming you'll never be forgiven.
Mm.
I think if you harm people, you shouldn't work for forgiveness, but for the sake of the thing itself. Exactly.
Yes, 100% Bellamy.
And the reason why you should work too is so that you never do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because you can't undo the harm that's already been done,
Mm-hmm.
but you can work to prevent any harm coming from you in the future. Like, there is a lot of complicated forgiveness stuff that I'll probably never talk about publicly because it's very personal, but like, yeah, sometimes forgiveness is fucking hard.
Yeah.
And it sucks.
Well, I mean,
and
like,
even when you want to forgive someone, it doesn't mean you necessarily are going to.
Yeah, well, I mean, like,
able to.
We talk about this in the James Gunn video, but like one of the things that I really appreciate about like just number one the work itself, like what he says within that. There's like a moment in Guardians Volume 2 where Yondu says to Rocket Raccoon is like, I know what you're going through because I've been you, and it's like, and you made a good point when in your script edits that it was like Yondu is saying this like as an embodiment of James Gunn, his older self, to his younger self, like wishing like to try to assuade him from the path of like the harm that he might cause people because of the toxic stuff that he's embodied. And James Gunn himself is in all of his work is doing that, not just within his own self and trying to reconcile that, but also trying to put that out into the world with his work. He went through these toxic things too. He caused harm, which I talk about in the video, and we can understand where that comes from. But it also like he caused harm in a couple different ways in his life. I don't want to blow it out of proportion, but he did cause harm to people in his marriage and his personal life and things like that. And so what he's doing now is, number one, accepting that he did harm, not expecting forgiveness for that harm, and then even further, using his filmmaking to try to teach others to do the same thing, like to how to avoid that same path. And I think that sort of like speaks to what you were talking about too, is like you can't take back the harm that you caused, but you can try to work to not only not perpetuate harm in and of yourself, but try to give to others a chance to have that same experience.
I'm gonna bring up a bit of a weird example, but one that really touched me. There's an ex-con, and I'm prefacing it with that because that's how he introduces himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he's an indigenous man in his 30s, and because of systemic things and stuff, he ended up in a gang, and he killed someone and went to prison, and he's since he's been out, he's done a lot of work in his community, and so he goes down by the river in the city that I live in. My city's very fucked up. Again, Canada's fucked. Like, it's literally different sides of the river. Like, that's like quite directly. And so the rowing club is on the side of the river that's quite poor, and poor because of segregation and a bunch of other shit. Like, it's a fucked up city, and there's a long history of racism stuff. But he tries to get kids who are falling into the patterns that he went through out of those harmful systems, and create opportunities for them to do sports and stuff. Just lovely guy, wonderful human being, and we had a really good conversation where he's just a very honest person, like, and talks openly about this stuff, and he talked about, like, I can't undo the harm that I did, but I can do my best to make sure that I never contribute to harm in the future, but also that I help other people that are in that space get out of those spaces. And speaking of villainized people, like, people who've been in prison aren't fucking evil, and the way a lot of people get real uncomfortable at someone because they've done shit like murder someone, it's like, you can't really fully come back from that. You can't make that you can't bring someone back to life. Like, there's never gonna happen. But you can do better for yourself and for the people around you in your community in the future. And the other thing that I want to say too, before I move on to a tangentially connected but important, relevant thing to what we're talking about with,
and also, I just want a quick note. I do see the two other super chats, so I just want to acknowledge them. I'll get to them when you're done. Keep going. I just want to make sure people know.
So I'm going to finish this point and then super chats, and then I'll go off in the other direction with the other bit of things that I want to talk about with, like, just saying something isn't actually doing it. But what was this? For goodness. Oh no, I lost my point.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize.
No, it's okay. I'm
sorry
trying
about that.
to find it.
Well, while you do that, I'll just quick address the super chat, but you find what you were saying. But John, thank you so much for saying Mike Flanagan is a man who Netflix does not deserve. Accurate. I mean, I love all of Mike Flanagan's work. Like, I love like his original movie, which has Doug Jones in it, is so good. It's about like this tunnel. It has a lesbian couple. He's fantastic. You should watch all of Mike Flanagan work. His work, I love pretty much all of it.
I uncritically just endorse all of Mike Flanagan's work.
Mm-hmm.
Just go watch it. I can't. I do actually have. I have. Fun fact: if anyone's seen the Midnight Mass video, just to put your mind at ease, they had no idea that one line could come across as transphobic. They felt quite bad about it, and yeah, I have that from Mike Flanagan directly.
Oh, that's not. I did not know that. That's actually really wonderful.
Yeah, he's on my Patreon.
Oh shit! Oh,
I can see that because it's public knowledge. Like, he's in the credits of all of the videos since.
Oh, that's amazing.
That. So yeah, Mike Flanagan, really cool. He likes video essays.
Awesome, Mike Flanagan. Hell yeah, Mike Flanagan. So we uncritically support Mike Flanagan. He's freaking great. Also, I will say CM too. You said I had a similar journey as a teen. I said homophobic, biphobic, and transphobic things. And I work every day to be better than the day before. Yeah, and that's I think all we can expect of ourselves. Like. Hopefully you can be forgiven for the things that you did, but like at the end of the day, it's just like you just gotta move forward and try to be better for yourself and for others. Just constantly moving forward in that way, and try to earn redemption if you did cause harm. And hopefully, like ultimately, you will find that. For most of us, I feel like it is possible as long as we're acknowledging, trying to move forward. But also it's more about moving forward and trying to do better every day rather than like earning the forgiveness. You shouldn't do it just for forgiveness. You should do it because it's the right thing to do. And forgiveness, if you did cause harm, is something that is a happy part of that if that happens. So.
Yeah. No, and I think it's just like I think you just you're gonna have to deal with the fact that you did harm for the rest of your life, and that's not like. I don't know. I think. Yeah. Oh, I know what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
With the thing I was saying about the centralizing of the people who do harm. So there's a common trope in certain types of media where
of people who do harm.
Where marginalized people fundamentally just exist to redeem the privileged person who's been bigoted, right? And
yeah.
The thing is that trope doesn't just appear in media. It appears in real world shit, and like it comes from a place of entitlement to victims and disproportionately marginalized people. But like you see it all over the place. Go look at news coverage of it rhymes with that purple fruit. News coverage of those cases. Where it's all about like, oh, it's gonna ruin this young man's life if we like, and my issue with this and with traumatic violence, right, is that what about the person's life who's been ruined by that violence?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, why isn't that the focus? Why isn't that what's centralized in? And I mean, yeah, you could say it's about Cosby. I think a more accurate one is Brock Turner. Never forget what he is. I can't say it. I don't want to put it on YouTube, but we all know what Brock Turner is. Never forget that. He's a piece of shit. He got off scot-free because he's rich and white, and like provably so. You know, his dad had connections with the judge and everything. I don't know. It's just,
yeah.
So yeah, like I think.
I just want to.
I want to be clear. I don't agree with the punitive justice system. It doesn't change the fact that within the system there is very clearly a bias that allows certain people to get away with any form of violence that they do.
Just want to quick acknowledge. I don't know if Allie is still here, but apologies, Allie, that we were talking about harder stuff, but sending you love. If you are still in the chat, and hear this,
I'm sorry.
No. Don't apologize. It's totally okay. We're talking about harder stuff, and it totally understandable. People need to take a step back from that. But Allie, if you are still here and you do hear it, I don't know, and to anyone else who needs to hear it, you are loved and amazing, and it's totally okay if because we're talking about harder stuff. If you need to take a step away, and we can step back from those conversations.
Yeah. I'm gonna step back from that stuff. I'm gonna move into two other directions.
Mm-hmm.
Built off that conversation, which is first off, a little while ago, frustrated about someone being like, oh, it's totally fine if you stream J.K. Rowling's game. I tweeted a thing that basically I want to be clear. This wasn't like me, like I'm planning out a really smart political tweet. This was genuinely one of those you tweet something without thinking about it, and it's like 2 sentences. But all I tweeted with was cis people are all I'm an ally until you ask the fucking tiniest thing, like don't stream the Turfs game. Now, obviously, I'm not talking about all cis people, but the cis people had some reactions to that. And then underneath that tweet, I said, just to be clear, I've said this many times before, cis people, you don't get to self-declare as an ally to begin with. And again, probably not the best way of wording what I intend with that sentence, which is just that allyship isn't, I am an ally. And that's it. Allyship is action. You get called an ally for your actions, but you don't get, it's not on your terms as someone who's not part of a marginalized group. And I want to be very clear, that applies to me too, right? I'm white.
Yeah. No, I mean,
I don't get to call myself an ally to people of color. Like, that's just a reality, right? I have to show up and do the work and learn and listen. And a lot of people decided to prove the point of the thread very actively.
Oh, I can bet specifically around this game.
That was a fun time. Yeah, the thread got 54,000 likes in the first tweet, so hundreds of quote tweets, hundreds of comments.
Yeah, I saw that one go viral, but it's well, like I saw so many people, like, after I did the article for GameSpot, for those of you who know, I did an article for GameSpot where I spoke about, like, the history of gender-critical feminism, quote-unquote feminism there, and J.K. Rowling's connection to it, as well as the connection to the game Hogwarts Legacy, at least specifically with her. Less so about the development team on Hogwarts Legacy, and there's a whole other conversation there. But I saw so many people in the comments, even people who were like, I support trans people, but I'm going to play this game anyways because I want to support the devs, or I want to, she has too much money anyways, or, that sort of thing. It's like what you're doing is you're just absolving yourself of you're finding any way to absolve yourself of feeling responsible for playing the game. And my article, like, ultimately I would prefer people never play the game, but ultimately I wanted people to at least, like, have the ability to, like, make their own decisions. But it's like you don't get to absolve yourself of wrestling with this. Like, people are just like, I'm doing because I support the devs. It's because people don't want to wrestle with what it means that they're buying this game and supporting it and streaming it and all that stuff. Like, you need to, at the very least, I would say you probably shouldn't play the game at all, period, hard stop. But at the very least, you need to feel conflicted about it. You need to wrestle with it. You need to know the history of it. You need to know the place and things that you're supporting because of it, the person that you're supporting because of it, the platform that you're supporting because of it, and wrestle with it. And feel awkward about it.
And that's... and I want to be clear, because I had 100, and I'm going to talk about one person, and I want to be clear, the reason I'm using this person is the person's question was genuine. They weren't trying to be shitty. They just were genuinely confused. But I'm using them as the example because I'd much rather take the nicest example than the shitty ones. But, someone messaged me during that and was like, oh, like, I'm just curious, like, what's the difference between this and, say, anti-Asian racism and J.R.R. Tolkien? And I'm like, well... like, what? Oh, and they said, like, no one talks about them. I'm like, well, I've pointed it out multiple times. There is a lot of racism in J.R.R. Tolkien's work, but it's important to understand that, one, Tolkien's dead.
Oh yeah.
There's no money going to him. Two, I
think the better one would be like H.P. Lovecraft would be the better one too.
Well, and I'll dig into H.P. Lovecraft because the person brought it up as the second thing. But on top of that, J.R.R. Tolkien at no point in his life was funding hate movements.
Mm-hmm.
His words weren't getting cited to pass laws that harm marginalized groups. So on like 10 levels, it's just not a comparable situation,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the other thing is, even if we take a figure like H.P. Lovecraft, H.P. Lovecraft is also dead.
Yeah,
None
that
of
was
us
the
think of
point
him.
too. Who has like done? Like
Everyone
Tolkien has
watched
problematic
H.P.
stuff. Yeah, Tolkien has done some problematic stuff, but H.P. Lovecraft is definitely like objectively
yeah.
racist.
If we step it up to someone who genuinely was like a full blown white supremacist, anti-Semitic,
he is probably a closer equivalent to Rowling than Tolkien would be.
He is a very close equivalent to Rowling,
Mm-hmm.
and has a lot of the same conspiratorial thinking and
Mm-hmm.
and obsessive tendencies about marginalized groups and stuff. But again, he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, and I want to express this, if you read Lovecraft, you need to grapple with the fact that you are reading a racist text that is pushing racist viewpoints about the world. I highly recommend Harris Bomber Guy's excellent video about
Really
Lovecraft, which is just about digging into like, this spoke to me at one point in my life, and it's really bigoted. Mm-hmm. I need to unpack that. Let's not use ableist remarks about the sanity of Lovecraft, please.
Yeah,
but
please,
like yes, he was mentally ill, but being mentally ill has nothing to do with his bigotry.
Mm-hmm.
And I really don't like, as a disabled mentally ill person, when people connect those two, because and I want to be clear that like this isn't about any individual person that said anything in chat. I want to be very
we're not. I was just to say like no one's getting angry at anyone in chat.
And I've done the same thing when I was younger. Like, this is not a judgment thing. This is just a discussion of the ways that ableism is taught to us by society and manifests in our language.
You're all good, Mac. You're good.
Yeah. I want to be very, very clear. Like, I know that you were not thinking anything bad about it. But when we say stuff like, you know, oh, they're just crazy, you know, the crazy right wingers, all that stuff. What we're doing is we're playing into an ableist view of the world that mentally ill people are inherently evil, which is a whole hard thing to unpack. There's a long history behind that and stuff, and I want to be clear again that these are learned behaviors that society has taught us. But the other layer of it is that it's also a way of absolving oneself from examining any ways in which you engage with, interact with, or intersect with privilege. Because it does this thing where it says, oh, bigotry is only done by inherently evil people. It's that essentialization that I always fight against. I, again, watch the Midnight Mass video. I talk about essentialization, and the idea of being essentially good or bad is harmful. That is why society says that stuff a bunch. And again, I want to be very clear. People responding it, yeah, exactly, Mac. Like, yeah, totally, exactly that. Like, that's what I mean by like, this isn't a you problem in any way. It's a society uses this language all the time, and then we repeat it. And when we it's the Zack Snyder thing. It's the Zack Snyder thing. Like, it doesn't matter if we intend. But when we restate what society teaches us without thinking about the underlying implications, we help in like allowing that system to continue and that behavior to continue. And because I think that while yes, there's lots of active forms of bigotry, there's also a lot of forms of bigotry that come from just restating stuff that exists around us. And I think that working against bigotry requires it's work. You have to, and this is what I talk about, you know, it's you have to show up and do the work. I have to show up and do the work about not only my own experiences and my own community's knowledge, but also about communities that I don't belong to. And but yeah, and then step one is becoming aware of this language, right? The more that you know, the more that you can really start to unpack the ways that we do this stuff. And
I think the hardest part in a lot of this stuff is becoming aware of it, like being self-conscious of it, and then starting to be like aware of your complicity of it and accept your complicity in it. I'm actually so on a completely separate thing. Well, I'll just two things on this note. First off, I just want to say Jimmy Nails, thank you so much. I mentioned it already in chat, but Jimmy, that is a very generous super chat, and I want to say thank you, number one, for that, and number two, you don't have to read this out. I know you said you didn't have to read it out, but I want to say thank you for saying that, and I'm very it means a lot to me that I was able to do that. So I appreciate you. So thank you very much, Jimmy. You are sending you love, my friend. And then shifting on to what we were just talking about. I'm currently doing a video that talks about I'm going to be using, I'm not going to say specifically who just yet, but and it's not rolling, but I'm going to be using a woman, a fairly prominent woman who fell down a gender critical rabbit hole, and using her as a case study to just discuss like how this radicalization occurs and why it occurs, and not in a way that's like fuck this person, but like how this sort of thing happens. And quite often, what I found is specifically in this case, and actually I'll recommend a book here that is very good for this that I'm using as like a foundational text for the video. It's called "What's Up with White Women." Pursuit what is it, Unpacking Sexism and White Privilege in the Pursuit of Racial Justice. It's a very good book. Highly recommend it. But what part of that book's discussion is, and what I'm sort of getting at in the video is like is a segment of it is often what happens with radicalization in these sort of gender critical spaces and a lot of other spaces is that white privileged women are suddenly confronted with a moment where they have to acknowledge that they are working within a system that perpetuates racism and ableism and transphobia. And they come to realize like, oh shit, I've been in a system that perpetuates that and I have caused harm to others. But instead of like taking that as a moment of self-reflection and acknowledging that and trying to move forward about like unpacking their complicity in these things, they have the existential crisis and said like, no, I've experienced misogyny. Anyone else who is attacking me must be misogynist because I know what it's like to be harmed in this society. So they must be attacking me because I'm marginalized too. How dare they say that I hurt other marginalized people because I'm a marginalized person too. I would never. And so it's like they have an existential crisis and refuse to acknowledge their complicity within that moment and start to push back against it. And so that's what caused them to get further into these radicalization pipelines, because it affirms the harm that they feel as like a woman, for example, as a cis woman is the most important form of harm to be focused on, and trying to deny any other forms of it. That's part of it.
It is. And to point out another example, what I talk about at the start of the Matrix video, it's the exact same process that some white trans people do. And this is what I mean by like, you aren't inherently evil if you've said or done something bigoted. However, even if you don't intend harm has been done, and you have to take ownership of that. You have to take responsibility for your actions. You took that action, right? And I think sometimes people get halfway with their understanding. Bigotry comes from ignorance. They were ignorant of the way that they were being bigoted, and then what they go is, so I'm not bigoted. No, that's not. That's not what we're doing here. That's very much not what we're trying to do here. We're understanding that, like, yes, it was a mistake, but you still did the thing, you know, like even if it wasn't actively purposefully doing it, it still was done, and we still have to acknowledge it, you know, like I fuck up. I've had friends tell me off for saying incorrect things, doing incorrect things and stuff, and I take full responsibility of it. I'm not going to go through some fucking list of it on a stream. But like, yeah, like a lot of the friendships that I really appreciated are with people that we are comfortable saying, hey, I really don't think what you did there was okay, you know, and that it's a two-way street, and yeah, exactly, Andrew. Bigotry isn't something you are, it's something you do. You can do something bigoted, but recognize that and own up to it, and so not be bigoted, just someone who did something bigoted. Well, exactly. I think and I want to add to that. I want to take that and increase it with just that, like, recognizing you did bigotry isn't a sudden statement of you are inherently evil, but when you internalize to a really, really deep core center of yourself, the idea that inherency underlies the way that we behave and act in the world, right? That inherent good or inherent evil is the fundamental axes of people's behavior. Um, if that is something that you have internalized to some degree, and it's prevalent in our society because it's the dominant religion's viewpoint on morality to a degree, um, then yeah, no wonder when you hear someone say, "Hey, that person's being transphobic." Uh, yeah, and I think what sometimes people don't get is if you do an action enough, you can be described as having that action be a part of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And 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 as silly as it sounds, like saying J.K. Rowling is a transphobe, as in that is a attribute of her, is is not a statement of inherency, as in J.K. Rowling through divine providence is a transphobe. No, it's saying J.K. Rowling has so consistently taken this action on purpose while having full and clear understanding of what the action's effect will be for a long period of time that we want to recognize how much she has internalized the behavior as a part of her personality,
Mm-hmm.
right? In the same way that, like, when I was an athlete, right? And I wouldn't describe myself as that now because I can't do that action anymore because of my disability. I still consider myself a coach, but a huge part of my identity was rowing. Rowing is fundamentally an action, right? So
Yeah.
actions become a part of us. The things that we do, to a degree, we use as ways of denoting ourselves. And I think the problem that happens with this communication issue is that when trans people say this person's a transphobe, what we're talking about is this person has a pattern of behavior that shows that that behavior is to some degree an internalized aspect of their identity, a learned and unlearnable thing. Whereas uh, what they hear is you are inherently evil,
Mm-hmm.
because there's four layers of presuppositions that have gone into their worldview. One, they think inherent evil and good is a thing, and like if you look at turf rhetoric, they talk a lot about us as being inherently evil. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
all over their language. So, um, two, they don't see the
Good night,
term
Cass. The last. Sorry, I'm just saying.
as about. Oh no, yeah, go ahead. Have a good night. They don't see the term as being about actions, right? Because they don't see bigotry as action. They see bigotry as something you are. And the problem is that there is no real way of breaching that language gap because they are willingly, purposefully misinterpreting. They and whether it's and I don't mean them as necessarily individuals, but I mean as the group.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a trained thing that they're doing, and they use it, and they're not the only group that does that, right? But it's why they start saying stuff like, oh, calling us that is a slur, right? Because they're trying to invoke the idea of saying someone is what they're saying is that being a turf is inherent to them,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not an opinion they hold or a set of behaviors
Well,
they
well,
engage with.
Well, also
It's inherent.
they also have equated it. They've equated. This is something I'm also going to talk about too. Is
Yeah.
they've equated their version of turfdom as also inherent to not just themselves but womanhood in general. They have said that my version of womanhood is the only way to be a woman. My version of womanhood includes being a turf. Therefore, calling me a turf is attacking me as a woman and is therefore misogynist. When what we're actually saying
But it
is
looks
like being a turf
completely
is something.
incoherent
Yeah, like
outside of
just
their framing.
yeah, exactly. Well, no, it's like you're they so like I literally have a quote from the person that I'm going to be doing the video on. There's literally a quote where she like says something along the lines of like if they like people keep calling me a turf. Well, if they were just saying if they were saying like woman, then we would call them misogynist. And I'm like, and she just takes, and the way she's wording it, she's like equating the word turf with woman. Like just clearly turf just means woman. I'm like, no, you're not, we're not calling you bad, like we're not calling you an awful person because you're a woman. We're calling you an awful person because you're being a turf. These words are not the same thing. They don't mean the same thing. But for many turfs, they have equated turfdom with womanhood because it's the only way they see womanhood as being valid.
Exactly. And again, there's 50 layers to their behavior stuff. But to bring this around, I think the big sort of central aspect of what we've been talking about here is that we're often dealing with clashes in fundamental engagement with the world through linguistic concept, like sort of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, basically, which I don't think is like true to everything, but I do think has some degree of an effect. Like, or like it's sort of chicken and the egg. Like is the mentality what creates the language, or is the language that creates the mentality? Kind of hard to tell. I think it's probably a bit of both. But yeah, so when we have such fundamental disagreements about the basic aspects of like understanding what the language means, it makes communication nearly impossible. Which, and I want to be very clear, they are an organized hate movement. Their leaders want it to be incoherent, because if it is incoherent to people outside the space, it helps to isolate. Again, everyone has to watch Innuendo Studios alt-right playbook.
Please do. They're really good.
It's not just about the alt-right. You will learn so much about a lot of spaces, including, and unfortunately, certain spaces that claim to be leftist.
Yes. Which also ties into the video from Mars. Also, I do want to pause us because people are saying, can we talk about something fun? I want to keep going on this conversation, but to have something fun, I paused this because the bromance between these two bros that I've been paused on, I've been wanting to see. I love their bromance in this game, and I paused because I want to make sure I hear it. So I'm just gonna pause us so that we can actually hear this a bit real quickly, because I want to see this bromance scene because I love these two. These two characters in this game are lovely.
You're not waving a hammer around, Aaron. Try a gentler touch.
And my big
Apologies.
sausage
I've been wanting to see the scene for a minute.
Bring it back. Trace the line to your right. Other right.
I also just love his big.
I just saw it.
Like his big.
It's the one
mustache
Aloy found
beard
up
thing.
north.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
call it a
Just guys being
concussion
bros.
beat party or something. Yeah, now that's music.
Just guys. I like guys. I don't know. I like it when two dudes are just being friends in games and shit. I don't know why. It's just fun.
And you're here.
Yeah, just be guys.
The world
It's
only
fine.
goes on.
Yeah, we're just doing.
Sorry,
do your
I love
thing.
doing voices.
No, you're good.
We
You're
learn
good at it.
fast
Agent
enough,
Smith
we help
voice in
make
the
that happen.
video was freaking perfect.
You want all the backup you can get, right?
Find that they're just
We still have
Oh my
much
god, don't.
training
It's so
to do,
creepy.
of
It's
course.
so good.
One does not become hunter in a day.
Jesse.
Each seed grows at a pace of its own. Doesn't mean it won't bloom. You should know
God,
you're
give
not
me
friend or
nightmares in the best way.
Cthulhu.
I heard their warriors drink people's blood.
Yes, the lemon jumps on
I
him.
wanna sleep
He's
with
like,
one eye open.
he's such a out of style
I
look, and I
think he's
love
seen
it. He's
enough
just
blood
great.
for
And I
it.
love his like half
I
shaved,
showed
like
him
mutton
to one of
chop
the rooms.
beard look. It's great.
He seems to appreciate the
It
privacy.
makes me think of the actor for Bender.
Looks like you've
Yeah,
things under
yeah.
control. I should get this to
John.
Right.
I can never
We'll
say his
keep on
name
training.
correctly. I
Catch up as
apologize
fast
to
as
him.
we can.
I
So
see
good for him
glimpses
though.
of my
Recently,
dreams
the actor
already.
plays Bender for like standing up and
Well,
like fighting for
while
his,
you've been
getting
off
what he
gallivanting
is
around,
like deserves as
I've
a
been
voice
watching
actor.
Gaia to find out
With
more
all the
about
stuff with
planet.
Futurama. Yeah.
Which is also definitely where my
From
voice
your
went there, because I was thinking of John
you're in need of
DiMaggio,
some
who
training.
definitely does do this style
Come
of
along.
voice sometimes. He's stuck.
Oh.
Bite my shiny metal ass. I can't
Okay.
do a good Bender, but it's great. But yeah, no.
Shiny metal. I can't do it. It's going to like 10 other places, so I give up. I apologize.
No, it's
I know
good.
I can do a Bender if I've heard him recently, but it's
and I
been so
delivered your
long
message
since
to
I watched
Talana.
Futurama.
She headed for that awesome.
Yeah, it's but no, speaking of Joe DiMaggio, I mean, like speaking on a completely other subject than what we were talking about. We can get back to what we were just talking about. But good for him for I don't know if you saw the news story, but like he almost didn't join the Futurama reboot because they weren't going to pay him like a good salary, and he kind of sort of stood up and used it as a moment to like talk about how voice actors are usually underpaid for their work, and he just sort of used it as a chance to get what he was owed for the voice actors. And also I believe I might be incorrect, but he also I think fought for some of the Futurama cast to have their salary increased as well, which is great.
Yeah, no, he was fighting for everybody. From what I know, John DiMaggio has been pretty openly supportive of worker rights stuff.
Mhm.
So I'm not overly surprised that he was like,
Yeah, no, screw. I'm not coming back if you're not going to pay me what what is a fair salary for my work. Yeah.
and I think that's an important thing to contextualize that with. Is just like it's ridiculous. Like and I don't care that they're already rich. Like they are still workers, and I think that just like straight up, all workers should be getting paid better, but also B, I think it's fucking bullshit that like fine, if you're gonna drag out the dead corpse of a franchise you won't leave alone, that's already had good endings. It's already
Yeah,
had
like I
just
don't
let
need.
it
I love
die.
Futurama.
love
Outside of the
Futurama.
outside of
Let
the
it
few
die.
transphobic episodes, I love it,
Yeah,
and I think
I
it's
mean-
fun. I think it should be done. I don't need more. So
I hate those episodes, but yeah, like
on the whole,
outside
it's a
of
great show.
On the whole, it's a great show, and like, I don't think the people who wrote those episodes are proud of those episodes.
Mhm.
You know, like it's not
I'm sure they would renounce
Speaking
it.
of a funny little thing from the last couple weeks with the transphobia, Graham Linehan.
Oh god. Oh god. Oh
my
god.
God.
Why are we going there?
Because it's funny. I'm gonna talk about something because I think Graham Linehan's one of the funniest people on the planet for
Nothing to do with
completely
his comedy.
reasons, with nothing to do with his comedy. And one sec. I'm gonna read you a little bit of a script. I'm not sure if I'll get to making it, but this script is one that has existed since my second video. Around the same time as my second video, I wrote most of this what I have, but and I won't reveal what video this would be in, because if I put up the video, I still want people to get the surprise. But at the end of the video would be about a thing, and then I would like, okay, I'm just gonna review it. I have a video that I would like to eventually make about Dark Place. If you haven't seen Dark Place, it's one of the greatest pieces of satire ever written.
I don't even know what that is. Is it a TV show or movie?
Garth Marenghi's Dark Place is a fake TV show.
Oh no, I did think I heard about this.
That is, yeah. So it's a bunch of pretty good like British comedians. It was made by Matthew Barry and Dark Place. One sec. I'm gonna go double check.
I will also say
But
too.
It's Matthew Holness and Richard Iowati, and Matt Berry are like kind of the main people. Oh, and Alice Lowe, and they and it's about male ego. It's a show about male ego. It's making fun of super egotistical male writers. So it's really fucking funny that the fucking perfect insert of like the worst form of that cameos in the show. Because again, like Matt Berry was on.
I gotta watch the show. I've heard about it before.
On Glinner's show on IT Crowd. So Glinner shows up in 2 episodes as like background cameo characters. And it's a parody of self-absorbed writers just like Graham Linehan, which is fucking hilarious. Like the irony is it's immaculate. So at the end of I slowly devolved the video into this discussion about bigoted comedians and the history of transphobia in British comedy and how it affected me growing up, because I grew up on a lot of British comedy and you know, like how that affected me, because it did, you know, that partially, like those types of jokes and things are partially what put me in the closet. And so anyway, the ending section of the video is titled Graham Linehan, Britain's Saddest Clown. So right. So much earlier in the video, I have a whole rant about like Rorschach and people not getting Rorschach, and the interesting thing, and I get to like why the point of it is basically why I think Dark Place's satire is so good, because it's actually coherent. It is impossible for someone to watch Dark Place and not get that Dark Place is making fun of
these things,
main characters,
which is
without
often,
you having like anti like you don't get that situation like with Rorschach, where Rorschach still registers as cool to a lot of the people it's supposed to be making fun of. You know, like Rorschach's only a joke that lands with people who already agree with the joke. So yeah, Graham Linehan, from here on referred to as Glinner, is an overrated comedy writer surrounded by people he knew were much more talented than him, who let his inability to accept criticism about a terrible transmissive joke he wrote consume his entire life. Glinner created the comedy series IT Crowd in the mid-2000s. Its first episode aired February 3rd, 2006. In the fourth episode of its third season, The Speech, a primary character dates a trans woman. When the character discovers that she is trans, he appears to accept her, but when they confess their love to each other, it's revealed that he misheard her, that he's disgusted by her being trans, and he violently breaks up with her. This episode, for obvious reasons, stopped airing in specific areas for its blatant transphobia. Glinner didn't like that. He didn't like that someone had said his jokes were bad, because his ego is about as durable as the tissues he cried into, and people not liking his bigotry made him sad. Yes, I'm being a petty bitch, because this pathetic weasel then spent the following decade and some years harassing trans people online, organizing hate groups, harassment mobs, and general bigoted hattery, and actively supporting various TERF groups and pushing anti-trans legislation in the UK and elsewhere. His obsession with the slight impugned to his ego consumed his entire existence to the point of his marriage, job, and life being demolished by it. Yes, you heard me correctly. He admitted his transphobia destroyed his marriage. I genuinely think that Glinner may be one of the most pathetic people in existence, and I think it is genuinely hilarious that he cameoed in a show that, to me, perfectly mocks people like him. I don't think trans-exclusionary racist fascists deserve to be treated with a modicum of respect. They have actively demonstrated they don't, and as such, I will always mock them and call them out as what they are, absolutely pathetic piss babies. After all, Dark Place wants you to look down on bigots and sexists, to look down and laugh at people like Glinner. So please, laugh at Britain's saddest clown, because he's funnier than anything he's ever written. Glinner, if you're in the audience tonight, I hope you can become less of a shit person. If you did, then there'd be nothing to laugh about, and I hope your bigoted little fascist hate group is relegated to being the subject of satire for all of history, a fading memory of a darker time, its ideas sleeping with the, and I cut to Garth Marenghi saying maggots repeatedly.
That's great. That's actually great. I mean, like, he is a very, the whole situation with Glinner is
that entire paragraph, like, it makes more sense in the context of the video, because the video is talking about how the entire point is just like it's take these people seriously. Just laugh at them. They're fucking hilarious. And like I think that a lot of bigoted people, and you've talked about one who I think is a perfect example of this recently, but I'm not going to bother naming him because his fans are really obnoxious and I don't want to deal with them anymore because they've harassed me enough. But people can guess who I'm referring to. There are a lot of bigoted white dudes who feel that they're entitled to respect, that they're entitled to being taken seriously, as if their opinions matter. And I think the best thing you can do when dealing with those people is to just not.
Well, it just always not even just about this person specifically.
No, it's like a general pattern.
It's like they've been told that they're owed respect, and so when they don't get it, they feel like you've harmed them in some way because you're not giving them what they've been told to. That is the default, and it's like no. You do not default get my respect. You have to earn my respect. Just like every single person from a minority community has to earn freaking respect. You don't get respect just by basis of existing. And that's about all white dudes, not just specific ones that you were alluding to.
Yeah. Well, and it's about many people in many communities. The reason it is disproportionately white cis men that behave that way, let's be clear, is a sociological issue. Not, and this is why I really get annoyed when people start saying, "Oh, no, it's not bigotry. It's recognizing a sociological phenomena, a consistent effect of certain behaviors taught by society. There are plenty of white guys that don't behave like that because of sociological factors. You want an example? My brother. My brother doesn't behave like that. Never has. Because my parents didn't teach him to behave like that.
And it doesn't have to be centralized in a white dudes either, too. Because, like, I know, without telling their story, I have a friend of mine who was dealing with this week one of their family members who was being intensely transphobic, and when was called out on that shit was like, oh no, how dare you call me transphobic, and like expected respect without giving it in return. And it's like, anyway, sorry.
No, but that's the thing. It's this entitlement, and for certain people, they have what I want to call a form of bigotry that isn't based in hatred, but is still based in viewing us as lesser. And they feel, and it was that thing I was talking about much earlier, that idea of like you're entitled to marginalized people helping you to be a better person, as if we exist
To make
for
you better.
privileged people, rather than and I have a good way of connecting this into the Peacemaker. We'll go to the Peacemaker in a second, but because it's really relevant to some stuff in Peacemaker.
Mhm.
But like, I don't think that people understand at a core level just how much bigotry lies under the idea that every single marginalized person in existence is just a walking teacher existing for privileged people to become better people.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the same thought process that goes into white savior behavior and similar, like I'm using white savior because it's the most commonly aware, like one people are most aware of, but, and I want to be clear, I've heard plenty of people of color who have brought this up in the context, like disabled people of color, queer people of color, of other forms of bigotry and privilege, but that savior methodology and viewpoint, and they almost always view themselves as saviors in multiple ways. They don't just view themselves as the white savior, they see themselves as the cis savior and the but like they feel that they are entitled to being centralized in all conversations, even when the conversations got fuck all to do with them.
Oh, I was dealing with that this week. Anyways, tangentially.
We've been dealing with the same type of people.
Oh, I can tell you. I will offline. It's not my story to tell on a stream, but I can tell you off stream. It's been a frustrating week in that department. But anyways, you were saying.
Yeah, it's like, to speak about it in a very broad term, debate bros. And I'm going to use one that is so far gone that, like, if you have a problem with me talking about how this person is just a raging bigoted weirdo, I don't know what to say. So Destiny got banned from Twitch because of his open and consistent bigotry. I want to be very clear. The specific event that got reported that got him banned from Twitch, because people keep trying to say, like, oh, they haven't said why he was banned, was him making jokes about, like, the 41% figure. Like, let's not mince words. And a bunch of his supporters and his wife his wife threw a really big tantrum on Twitter about, like, he's the original leftist, you need to respect him, and all this stuff. Like, no, I don't need to respect him. He's a shitty person who's treated our communities terribly, and like, I'm sorry, but no, you don't get to make trans suicide jokes and then pretend like you're our cis savior. You just don't. And I can grab you.
Especially since, by the way, and this is probably why he used it too, presumably, but like the 41% figure, which trigger warning here for those of you who don't know, it's 41% is from one study or whatever, is a figure of, like, the amount of trans people who have attempted suicide.
It's also inaccurate.
It's from
in the Matrix in the Matrix video. I have a more accurate set of figures if people are interested, because I don't really want to get into that stuff.
Yeah, no, it's at the end of the day, it's an inaccurate figure. That has been wielded by many right-wing groups. Like, for example, to give you an example, when I did my Dave Chappelle video months ago, that got targeted. It got picked up by a bunch of alt-right groups and on alt-right forums. And one of the ways that they attacked the video and attacked me specifically is they kept saying, they just would comment 41 over and over and over and over again on the video, or say 41% yourself. So, like, it's been that figure, which again is inaccurate, has been weaponized by right-wing groups in order to attack and harass trans people. So just to give a history of that.
Like, warning, I just want to be clear, because because a lot of these people will do this thing where, like, oh, you're slandering, and I'm not lying. I have posted the link. You can go look at it. Just warning that that's what it's about. That's what's going on in the clip. Like, it sucks. I wouldn't recommend watching it, but just to prove that like, I'm not lying about this. I'm not exaggerating about what this is about. I'm not like. And I want to be clear that he targeted a specific individual with this because he doesn't like her. Like,
so that's targeted. It's using right wing harassment against a specific trans person. Okay, so yeah,
well, so not only was it targeted harassment against a minority group, it was targeted minority. Yeah, it was targeted harassment towards an individual on top of being targeted harassment towards a marginalized group, while his chat is making a bunch of really horrific jokes about this individual. And that's why he got banned from Twitch. Anyone telling you different is lying. But my point is that they're still trying to act like he's some grand ally to trans people. Like, genuinely, I have seen his fans trying to argue this. And
because you'll see this with a bunch of people, and not just in the debate bro space. It's just like they say one good thing about trans people, and like suddenly they're a trans ally perfectly all the way through.
They
even say that
money.
They even say this about. I mean, well, people use any. I mean, it doesn't even have to be that. Like, oh, they raise money. It doesn't even need to be that as an excuse. Like people saying about J.K. Rowling. People say, she's a trans ally because in her essay she says, I don't hate trans people. Therefore, she's totally okay.
No, she said the words, I'm a trans ally. She's said those words times. So
of course she likes trans people.
Like, what was driving me up the fucking wall when I was getting harassed for that tweet where I said that you don't just get to self-declare as allies was JK. Like, the person I'm talking about, the TERF whose game we're talking about, has literally said the words, I'm a trans ally, in a manifesto of hate. Like, I don't... This is why those words mean nothing to me as a trans person. They mean nothing on their own. I have to see action, and I can't trust someone until I've seen repeated action showing a pattern of behavior.
But this is what happens even with people who aren't bigoted. They only see allyship as is simply declaring that you're an ally, and they say that I'm done. Like, I support trans people without understanding what the action needs to be taken. Partially because they never, and in some degree, I think it's partially because they've never been able to they've never been confronted with the chance to show the allyship because they've never even seen a trans person. So there's part of it, I think, and I mean this sincerely, part of the reason why I think people do equate, like, allyship with just stating that you support people is because they don't have a community of trans people around them that they are aware of, that I should make clear, aware of, because they probably do have a community of trans people around them, but, like, that they're aware of, to have an understanding of, like, what allyship means. And so when they say I support trans people, they think that that's all they needed to do. So when they look at someone like Rowling who says I'm a trans ally, they're like, well, she did the thing and that's it.
And here's the other thing is that for neoliberals, stated beliefs
have a good night, Jimmy Nails
are the same thing as demonstrated behavior, right? Like, all you have to do is just say you're doing a thing, and that's good enough. I agree, Bellamy. I want to be clear. What I'm complaining about is cis people who self-proclaim themselves as allies. I want accomplices. Accomplices have an explicit implication of doing instead of just cheering people on. It's a much better term. What we're talking about is the pattern of no, when I say like actually showing up and doing stuff, that means if you're able to, and I want to be clear because I'm someone that I'm not physically able to do protests. I used to when I could. My body's not what it used to be, but no, accomplice doesn't imply doing something wrong, Olam. It just Kate,
you were saying.
Kate, if you want, I don't have the time to unpack all of that.
Yeah, that's a lot of questions. Kate asked the last question. I love Kate. Kate asked the last questions. You don't have to address everyone, but I love you, Kate. But you also asked a lot of questions.
just to shout someone out. John the Duncan does a really, really good job of covering neoliberalism, what it specifically is from an academic standpoint. I highly recommend watching his videos. That's JOHN the UNCAN. John the Duncan.
Yes,
good friend of mine.
John the Duncan's great. I've watched a bunch of their videos. Does a lot of great work.
So I highly recommend John's videos. If you want a more in-depth conversation about neoliberalism, poli-sci isn't my specialty in knowledge. I know a lot about. Basically, I because of my background, I know a lot about choice theory and why people make decisions and the ways that systems influence choices and systems. I know a lot about systems. Computer science, especially in the areas that I work in, is a lot of systems, but I also know about human systems because of that. I worked in pandemic spread simulation, which means a massive amount of understanding of how connection networks behave and things, and also understanding how machine learning on network analysis functions, which means I have a pretty good understanding of how the internet works as well, how social media platforms function and do things. Anyway, that's more what I'm good at. If you want poli-sci stuff, I would recommend people like John the Duncan. Who else? There's a lot of really good. If you want political philosophy, I'd recommend Philosophy Tube. Obviously, I would also really recommend people watch FD Signifier. Sociologist, really knowledgeable person, and just a wonderful guy. Love working with him. If you want some similar work that has a lot of really great comedy and covers media stuff more in the style that I do, then I'd recommend Foreign Man in a Foreign Land. Like there's tons of awesome creators.
And Foreign Man, I had Foreign Man on here a few weeks ago. So if you were here a few weeks ago, Foreign Man in a Foreign Land was right here on this stream. So
yeah, Foreign's great. I love Foreign.
Foreign's wonderful. Foreign's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, but it's the thing of like you have to do things. You have to actually do things, and doing things is relative. And this is why people need to understand that the material conditions of the area you live in will dictate what is the best way of helping with stuff, right? So yes, you do actually have to put some effort into looking into what's going on. Sorry, my brain's.
No, yeah, you're good.
You have to look into what is going on in your local area and see what best ways you can engage in mutual aid. There are often going to be organizations already set up. There are people who are organizing already, and you can find ways of helping with those things. So if you have the time, the energy, the space, you can do that. But there's even simpler actions like centralized trans voices, especially if you're a creator. Like if you're talking about marginalized issues and none of the people in that group are even at the table at all, and that doesn't mean that they need to be like the ones talking in the video.
You can, I mean, like I've seen a lot of creators who have like trans readers or trans people, like, or providing voices, or like
so like with the Matrix essay, right? The Matrix essay, I think, rather than pulling the number out of my brain wrongly, I'm gonna go double check. It's a large number. So I had script feedback from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 15 marginalized creators, as well as feedback from my parents. I always get feedback from my parents. They help me a lot.
I wish I could do that. I should do that more often because I love my parents, but my parents are just like, I don't get it, but I appreciate you doing you.
It's great because I get to teach them things, and I often find like repeating stuff to my dad like helps him get it better. So because I read him the script in a couple different stages, and then I show him the video, and he watches the video. I've gotten that man to the point where he can like hold a pretty good conversation about complex gender theory, which is cool. I'm very proud of myself for that. And it's
we should. Sorry, Super Desi makes a great point. We should. At this point, we should make it, because I really, every time you come on, I'm always like, I'm playing a game, and we're talking about hard subjects, and I actually really love our conversation. So actually, we'll talk off stream because I actually wouldn't be against that. But Super Desi makes a great point, and I appreciate you, and thank you, Super Desi, my friend.
But yeah, and I want to be clear. There's times where you're not going to be able to find sensitivity readers. That's just a reality. Even if you try,
also like try your best to pay them as well. Which, by the way, you need to submit me your. I'm gonna say this on stream. You need to submit me your invoice because you did reading for me. And I want to pay you. Anyways.
I will. I wish I could. When I am in the position to, I will be paying everybody that I work with. But right now I can't. Instead,
I know that's the reason I say that is it's a barrier sometimes.
Yeah. We pay each other in favors. I do things for them. They do things for me. It's just a reciprocal cycle of working together and supporting each other. Which that's an aspect of community, building a community around support. And not ever. It's never obligation. It's just about when you have the time and you can help each other. and none of my sensitivity readers are like owing me anything. They do those things when they want to, and often it's a lot of people who want to read the script anyway. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
which helps. Like I'm not putting a burden on them. The other thing that I also did with Matrix, and it was really really important for me to do this. The only person's face that is on screen that isn't edits from the film is my friend Noir, because I wanted to centralize queer people of color's voices in the discussion of the Wachowskis' racism. So I built the entire section off of their words. They had complete editorial control over everything that I was saying, though I only had to make some really tiny changes, which I'm really happy about that, because and I want to be clear, I trust both Indy and Noir to tell me like if I'm wrong. Again, that it's the thing of learning. Like it's just, you need to go into it with the understanding that like you're gonna fuck up something. You just are.
Yep.
That's okay. Nothing wrong with messing something up. What becomes a problem is when you've already done the thing and then you just keep going with it.
Or also, if the other thing too is just like, there's nothing wrong with screwing something up, especially in like conception phases and like production phases, because that's when you're supposed to be figuring something out.
You should be fucking it up.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Make your mistakes before you release something.
Yeah.
And I cannot stress this enough. Hollywood has lower ethical standards for this than most of my essayist friends.
Well,
because fucking pathetic. That's pathetic.
It is. Well, because Hollywood's thing is profit above all things, because capitalism, and so they often speed things out to get it done quickly, which often leads to things just being missed and harm being perpetuated. And then also too, they just don't want to waste the money on.
Care.
They just don't care and don't want to centralize and don't have the voice in the room.
I'm gonna say some real nasty shit about Warner Brothers whenever my Patreon hits the point where I make the Matrix Resurrections sequel. But I want to be very clear of something. These corporations are not our friends. They make queer art because it lets them say it's fine that we're releasing this anti-queer art. And if you don't believe
you see it clearly.
if
Netflix.
you don't believe me, Matrix Resurrections was allowed to say trans because a year later, J.K. Rowling's fucking newest film is releasing. You cannot tell me that the timing of that isn't purposeful.
Oh yeah, no, and
especially
you see.
They were strong-arming Lana into making the film, and I think Lana had a lot of leverage. I mean, she got to tell them to fuck off in the film, like, which is great. But like, the timing is too exact, and the same shit goes with Dave Chappelle and Netflix. Dave Chappelle got renewed. Netflix makes a couple of queer shows, and they taught those out as if that suddenly. As if it's like a scale.
Well, I said this very clearly about I said this very clearly about the Harry Potter game, because people were like, well, because I was listening to a podcast with I'm not gonna say who, but a conservative podcast host in the gaming sphere reached out to me to be on their podcast, and I said I turned it down because it was not gonna be in good faith. But I listened to the podcast where they talked about the game, because I was wondering if they would bring up my article in the very least in context of the discussion, because I'm like, I don't want to come on the show. It's like nothing against you. I'm just doing it. That's all I said. The conservative podcast host literally, I thought, well, at the very least, they'll at least mention my article in their reporting, and just like they can go find it themselves, because the article said everything that I really wanted to say. Yeah. They not only didn't mention the article, they said, I've never encountered anyone that actually had a good argument against J.K. Rowling. She just says that women are okay. And then made this point, which, number one, fuck you, because you definitely read the article because you reached out to me, so fuck this person. Number two, though, the point that I was actually getting at, I just need to vent that frustration. But number two, the thing that, and this is a well-known podcast too, so we'll talk, I'll tell you off the screen. Two, the thing that pissed me off was in that one of the hosts said, well, the game has trans people in it, so like, why is no concession ever enough? Why do we keep conceding to trans people? I'm like, you don't get to toss a piece of candy on top of transphobia and say that we should like eat it. Like, you don't get to toss a piece of candy on a pile of shit and then say that this is worth eating. Like, it's just, it frustrates me so much that like people say things like with this Netflix situation, it's just like, well, we had a couple like queer shows like Sense8, which we canceled, and like all these other queer shows, and so it's okay if we have the counter programming like Dave Chappelle's transphobia. It's like you don't get to frame things in, like, number one, because you're punching somebody doesn't make it okay that you like gave them a healing bomb after. You're still punching someone. Number two, you don't get to frame these things. Sorry, I just want to like you don't get to frame these things against each other because it frames them as equally valid. It's the whole like thing that I talked about in my J.K. Rowling article.
It's this idea that the equivalent viewpoint of I should get like we should just get to live like every other human being is people actively calling for our death.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be very clear. Yesterday, in the span of a single day, the Republican governor of Utah admitted that the Republican bills kill trans people.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they do. Every single one of those bills is directly about contributing to a suicide rates. That is provably what they do. It is what my Matrix Resurrections video is about. Not my Matrix Resurrections video. My first Matrix video. That's what it's about. That's why I talked about the Matrix. It's not really about the Matrix. Ta-da! Surprise! Mm-hmm. It's actually about all of the systemic ways in which we're harmed, how that contributes to trans death, and I want to be clear. I don't think it's correct to call it suicide. It is a form of social homicide as discussed by Engels. It is wrong to call it suicide because that implies that it is our fault. It is not.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to be making sure. I'm going to be making sure I use that now. Social homicide. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a form of social homicide. It is to destroy all things that make life worth living.
I'm making sure to add that into my repertoire of things to use in my scripts. Anyways, sorry.
Yeah, so it's like these are not equivalent. They will never be equivalent. And I have a lot of disagreements with our Republican governor. He doesn't agree with me that I'm a woman. Like, but I can at least fucking respect the fact that he won't participate in murdering children, which is directly what he said.
Again, bars on the floor, but I guess he's stepping over it.
Like, so I want to be clear when I say this stuff, because I have had so many people over the last 10 years try to gaslight me about what the effects of systemic marginalization are.
Mm-hmm.
The people who are doing this know what they are doing, and they are choosing to do it anyway.
Yeah.
We should stop trying to like it's not just ignorance, and this is why it's really frustrating because, for example, former Minnesota Senator he has the whitest name. It'll take me a second. Like it's just one of those like generic, like you hear it and you're like, oh, of course this guy would say this, and I'm big trigger warning. He said some really horrible things. I'm not going to read them, but I am going to just dance around what he said. You know what? Actually, it's not. Let's say that it involved a wall and guns, and we'll leave it at that. But the point is that not only did he call for that to all trans people, he called it to anyone that is saying that a man can be a woman, is how he phrased it, which is bullshit.
Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is a freaking, she said it too.
She's a senator. She's called for.
She's called for violence against trans people. She did it publicly and stated it and reaffirmed it.
So the tweet's gone. I can't show you it because it got removed from Twitter for violating Twitter's rules. I really should have grabbed a screenshot.
Thank you,
sure
Mark.
it exists
Love you,
somewhere.
Mark.
But if you look up Robert Foster, you can probably find some coverage of this. My point is, we are not exaggerating when we talk about these people. And in the Matrix video, I lay out the ways that discrediting trans voices in media is fundamentally a part of the exact same system that is doing these bills, that is contributing all these other things. So I want to like I think what often is missed because people don't understand. Thank you, Red Gambit. And I want to be clear, my understanding of the Engels quote isn't direct sources. It's from another trans person explaining the concept to me. So if I got something wrong, I would appreciate being corrected. That, like, feel free to. But
have a good night, Kate.
Because I don't know everything.
Okay, I'm just saying about night to Kate. But yeah, no, I agree with it's.
Our anger is necessary at this point.
Yeah, well, and people gaslight trans people again. This is what happened this week, and this is what I was dealing with this week.
Yeah.
And I'll just remain vague about it, but like this friend of mine was dealing with a family member who was being actively transphobic, and then blaming them for it, saying, "How dare you call me out for this? I support you all the time." And like, how dare you call me transphobic because I'm supportive of you? You just don't support me because you call me things like transphobic. And then this friend got really upset to me because they're like, am I in the wrong? It's like, no. Don't let that rhetoric get to you. I know it's your family and you like want to be affirming to your family, but you have consistently done the work to try to explain to them how you're feeling, try to be vulnerable and explain why they're harmful and show why it's harmful to you. And they have consistently not like done any empathy towards you and consistently, constantly asked only for you to empathize with them. It's not even that they're asking. It's not even that you've tried to meet them halfway and they demand that you go all the way to them and do nothing for yourself. So don't ever, I was literally there just like helping this person being like, don't you ever think that it's your fault. Like, are you perfect? Have you worded everything perfectly in every single way? No, but they have consistently shown like an inability to even think about you in any way, shape, or form. And when you give them a chance to empathize with you, they consistently knock you down and gaslight you and saying that it's your fault. And so, like, don't ever, and this happened, and that's at an individual level, but that is how these people have been taught to interact with any marginalized group and person, to say that anytime that person comes to them with their feelings and tries to be vulnerable and explain the harm that you are causing, that it is their fault for making you feel bad.
And what is really important to understand is that the underlying thing that I'm gonna go read my tweet because it was and
we're always better in tweet format, right? That's
I write good.
I will say when I actually try with tweets, because I'm forced to limit my character numbers, I'm like, oh, I actually can make my tweets be more, I can actually make my writing more effective if I think about it. Yeah, and then there's sometimes I just fart out tweets. So there you go.
So what was I saying earlier today? Right. I've said this a few times about many recent situations and conversations, but the underlying basis of transphobia, and particularly trans misogyny, is the sexist view of women as inherently duplicitous, and the doubly vile view that trans women are duplicitous because we are women, but also that we are liars because we say we are women. Trans misogyny is such a strange mix of contradictorily viewing us as women and applying sexism because of that, while also saying we aren't women, meaning we are even more duplicitous and sneaky in trying to trick men. Trans misogyny, and the reason why that term is really specific and important to understand is the disproportionate amount of transphobia that exists in the world, because it allows for the placement of trans women as simultaneously every single negative stereotype about women while also being every single negative stereotype about men. So we are violent aggressors who are also weak, but also we're using our feminine wiles to trick the men. So
we're weak women who can't like do anything for ourselves and can't like, we get offended at everything. We're little snowflakes. Also, we're the nefarious people pulling everything and killing everybody, and we're like attacking everyone. And then also at the same time we're very tricksy and like
And notice what is an underlying tenet of fascist worldview? The enemy is both weak and strong.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Schrodinger's trans. Yeah, exactly. Just Carowin.
We are
both. We are whatever gender will make them villainizing us work better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like we just confuse all of their viewpoints.
It's a whole thing. Oh my god.
It's a whole thing. So like, yeah. So when, yeah. But to bring the conversation way back around, because I want to talk about a little bit something more positive, and I think, and for once we're gonna say some nice shit about the cis dude.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm here. Let's talk nice about cis dude.
So earlier we were talking about entitlement to marginalized people as a vector for the improvement of a cis white man. When I first started watching Peacemaker, my red flags started thinking. I was like, oh no, the black lesbian character is going to exist for Chris.
Mm-hmm.
And then the show did a fucking brilliant thing where it completely subverted that and made it the other way. Chris existed for her.
Yeah.
In multiple ways within the structure of the story. That was fucking great.
Yeah, and she teaches, like, he's there to enable her to push back against her own mother. And,
Yeah,
like, call out fucking Task Force X. Suicide Squad. Was this some sort of Suicide Squad? Anyway, sorry.
Some sort of Suicide Squad?
Oh my god.
Hey, we got a Suicide Squad over here.
Hey, it's here. Oh god.
My favorite thing is the meme of like insert movie name into that line, like, what is this? Some kind of Matrix Revolutions?
Also, Xanadu, thank you that is an incredibly generous. Thank you so much for that super chat. Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you very much. I just want to give you a heart. You didn't give any comments, so I can't say, like, respond to anything, but thank you. I appreciate that, my friend.
What are we? No, shoot that ship out of the sky, Han Solo. What are we? Some kind of Force Awakens?
I was just... What are we? Some sort of Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice?
What are we? Some sort of Batman versus Superman Dawn of Justice.
Oh my god.
What's the...
I'm trying.
Hey Guardian, what are we? Some kind of Destiny 2?
Oh my god. Oh my god. Hey, hello, Clarice. What is this? Some sort of Silence of the Lambs?
What are we? Some sort of Revenge of the Sith.
Oh my god. Don't get me on my Palpatine. I love my Palpatine voice. The dark side of the Force is a pathway to some abilities that some might consider under certain circumstances if you really think about it deeply and possibly contribute and maybe think a little bit too hard about it. Unnatural.
From my point of view, the Jedi are evil. What are we, some kind of Attack of the Clones? I was going to Toshi's station to get some
power converters.
What is this?
Kind of new home? Oh my god. Oh my god. Sorry.
What is this? Some kind of Monsters University?
Oh my god. You're having too much fun with this. Oh my god. I think you're gonna be okay. Are you? So you guys are like because they actually did that.
Some kind of sacred garden.
I forgot. Durginal says this, like, they did that in Star Trek. In Star Trek First Contact, he literally says, so you guys are like astronauts on some kind of Star Trek. He actually says that in the movie, and I love it. Also, thank you so much, Mike.
Some kind of Star Trek, the original series?
What was this, some sort of Star Trek First Contact? Mac the Knife. By the way, thank you so much for your super chat. And yes, I should say, I made a video last year. Today, I want to go on this tangent. Something. It's a bit sad, but also something to just say is warm to my heart. One of my biggest role models in my life is Leonard Nimoy. I think he is a man who just modeled some absolutely wonderful, just being a wonderful ally. Like, he was a man who actually showed what it means to be an ally. He was. This is, by the way, sorry, let me go back a little bit. Leonard Nimoy his birthday is today. And I made a video last year on his birthday as well, talking about why I love Leonard Nimoy and why he models a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about. One of the things that we were talking about is like how to be a good ally, and I'll just talk about this really quickly because of what I love Leonard Nimoy for it and how he consistently proved that he was a good ally. He was asked to appear in Star Trek the Animated Series to revoice the character of Spock. And when he was like, all right, I'll come back as Spock, but then he heard that they were offering every single character to come back except for Nichelle Nichols as Uhura and George Takei as Sulu, the two people of color in the cast. The only two people in color, the only people that weren't really asked to come back. And he said, no, I will not do this show. I will turn it down if you don't ask them to come back on the show. And so Nichelle and George were both hired onto the animated series because Leonard Nimoy said, no, I will not do the show if you don't hire them for the series. And I think it's just like that's showing like actual allyship, like centering them and centering their voices but using your using your privilege and your power that you have in that moment to center them, I think is absolutely wonderful. So like Leonard Nimoy, absolutely like not a perfect person, and there's a wonderful documentary that I love made by his son called In the Name of Spock. It's a great movie, and it talks about some of the ways that he failed as a father. So he's not a perfect person by any means, but he was an absolutely wonderful and amazing human being.
I think people should go watch the Sex and Star Trek video.
Thank you very much.
But,
yeah, there's there's a great segment in there with by someone talking about asexuality.
Being really lovely, and like I mean Leonard Nimoy, but like Leonard Nimoy just is Spock. Like Spock was Leonard Nimoy in so many ways.
Blue Jane Blue Jane. I'm so glad, Blue Jane. I'm glad that we were able to help you. I just want to, Blue Jane was having a tough day, so I just want to give Blue Jane a moment and send you love, Blue Jane. You're absolutely lovely. And thank you, CM. We already mentioned that quote, but I'm sending you love as well for your super chat. Anyways, you were saying about Leonard Nimoy. Apologies for
yeah, no, in your video, I don't remember the entire details, but like he helped a woman that was sexually assaulted after it
happened. Yes. I didn't want to necessarily get into that, but yeah, there was the actress who played Yemen Rand. She was sexually assaulted, and she went, regardless of who perpetrated it, which I talk about in the video about the evidence around that, she went to Leonard Nimoy after that fact, and he was there for her, and comforted her right after the fact. So regardless of what we know about the actual events, like, he was there for a woman who was Janet, he was there for her right at that moment. So yeah, no, Leonard Nimoy, an absolutely, like, freaking amazing human being. Also, he was a painter. He liked to paint naked women really beautifully, so there's that too. He was great. He was a painter, and like he did photography of like larger women, and like not in like a sexy woman kind of, like it was like trying to like show the beauty of like bodies and everything. Like Leonard Nimoy, just a great artist all around.
Yeah, I think it's again like the engaging with the entirety of the complexities of a human being. He wasn't a perfect dad, but like that is human. And I think idolization is a form of dehumanization inherently.
Yeah,
I think to idolize in the way that many people do, to ignore their flaws, is to reduce them from a person to a projected idea.
Yeah, it loses the totality of a person and just like frames them as just solely one thing. It's like the things that the mistakes that we made also inform us as much as the good that we did. And it's not to like it's a Doctor Who quote, but I do always love it, even though it's in the context of something else. It's like the good doesn't erase the bad, but the bad doesn't erase the good. And it's like we shouldn't do that to any human. Like we should take them in the totality of their humanity. So Leonard Nimoy is a consistent idol of mine. Like if I ever had to point to a person who is like a celebrity idol of mine, it is Leonard Nimoy. But that doesn't mean that I say that Leonard Nimoy was ever a perfect person. He made mistakes. He did stuff, but like he was someone who consistently worked to be better and acknowledged the stuff that he did, and like consistently tried to be an ally and do good in the world. And so he's absolutely amazing. So even Mr. Rogers, like even someone saying Mr. Rogers, like he also wasn't perfect either. Something I even talk about in the Sex and Star Trek video. I bring up Mr. Rogers in that as well, in that context. So even Mr. Rogers, who was a great human being, also was not perfect either. So
yeah, no, I think what matters is the pursuit.
Hey, you're gonna make me quote Star Trek again? My favorite quote from Star Trek is we must strive to be more than we are. It does not matter if we will never reach our ultimate goal. The effort yields its own rewards. Like I always like that is my favorite quote in all of Star Trek, and I've used it over and over and over again in so many videos. It's said by Data in the episode The Offspring, because the entire point of it is to say like no one is ever perfect. Nothing is ever perfect, and no one will ever be perfect. It's all about trying to be better, and that pursuit of being better is the point. It's not the perfection that is the point. It's the pursuit of perfection. And then Lisa, I just a quick answer that question really quickly. I'm not number one to answer the Destiny question. I'm not gonna like question the validity of someone's identity. Like not even that's just not a conversation I'll enter into whether or not we believe it's genuine or not.
And also, it has no relevance.
Yeah, it doesn't have any relevance.
It doesn't matter. Like, how people behave is what matters.
Yeah, it doesn't, and you can be. I'm sorry.
I don't think it's like useful to get into.
Yeah, well, trans people can be transphobic. Women can be misogynist. Like it does not matter. It's like your identity is can inform your perspective, but it does not absolve you of like perpetuating harm against the very community that you may or may not be a part of. So it's irrelevant, and also I'm not gonna speculate on someone's identity's genuineness or not. As for the Blair White question, no, I wouldn't debate. I don't generally do debates in general personally. Because I don't like, again, it goes to that whole like framing each side of the argument is equally valid. And Blair White, speaking of someone who is a trans person perpetuating transphobia, she is a trans person perpetuating transphobia. Yeah, and I'll leave it at that just because I know Blair White in social context, and I have some thoughts about Blair White that I don't want to be public about, and I'll just say they're not necessarily positive, and I'll leave it there. So.
Yeah, I think there's just a very simple reality, which is openly bigoted people are not worth having a debate with, and also online debate, format wise, garbage. I'm sorry, I actually think that
it's not even real. It's not even real. Like debates have actual structure.
Yeah. So I want to be very clear about something. Debate is a mostly pointless exercise done for fun. Talk to anyone who's done formal debate in university or high school, and they'll talk about this. Like it's about who can bullshit the best and who can draw the attention of the audience the best. It is not actually about the validity of the statements being made. And anyone who says otherwise is lying or manipulating you, just doesn't know what they're talking about. Like it's one of the three. Usually all three, to be honest. Debate is a performance, right?
It's about who performs it. Yeah, it's about who does the best performance. And I've always said it's not about who's. Yeah.
It's not valuable. But debate online is a specifically toxically masculine thing. I want to be very clear. Anyone can perform toxic masculinity. Saying someone is performing toxic masculinity isn't a statement about what their gender identity is. Because I know some people will try to use that.
I talk about this in the James Gunn video because I talk about Nebula and Gamora enacting toxic masculinity.
And enacting toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity is a set of traits that society has connected with masculinity that are specifically toxic. Really, really important to understand. So I come from a coaching background. I come from rowing. Rowing, what I love about that sport, at least in my corner of it, this isn't universal, but is how we do what's called cooperative competition. That we are cooperatively competitive. The goal is to uplift everyone. You doing your best pushes other people to do their best, right? Because the only person you are truly ever competing with is yourself. Everyone else is a benchmark that lets you know how well you did on achieving that goal. When I finished my pair final at Canada Games in 2019, this is well before I'd come out. I was competing with the men. And I was a lightweight. I was actually a lightweight in the heavyweight categories, so I did pretty damn good. And we finished the race. We got to the dock. Everybody got out of their boats, and we were just hugging and fucking crying. And I want you to picture, 6 boats, each with 2 people, of other than my pair, because we were lightweights, so we were the mincy one, but of like 6'5" beefcake dudes hugging each other and crying and like, oh, it was such a good race. And because competition isn't about fucking destroying your opponent. Not true competition, not healthy competition. There is healthy forms of competition, there's toxic forms of competition. The goal is to better oneself through sport, to become the best that you can be. And the only way that you can do that is also by showing up and helping other people. Because if you're not doing your best, then the other person isn't getting to do their best, isn't getting to test themselves fully, right?
Which is why, by the way, and this is an aside here, which is why, by the way, I love the fact that a lot of the athletes have stood up, who, like, I forget her name off the top of my head, but Leah Thompson. So many of the people that swam against her have, like, stood up and, like, said, like, we support her being here, and we support competing against her, because they understand competition is about, there's one, yeah.
There's exactly one athlete, and I don't have time to unpack how much transphobia was in her ridiculous little
there's that
tirade. But every other athlete has behaved the way that I'm completely unsurprised by this, because I know athletes. I've been around this. This may shock a lot of people, but I can tell you right now from conversations I had while I was in the closet with Rowing Canada, like Team Canada coaches, the Olympic coaches. I've met quite a number of them. I've talked with them and stuff. Most coaches support trans athletes. Most coaches think that our current systems of how we split up athletes aren't actually very good and aren't very well supported by kinesiology. Secondary sex characteristics need to be better taken into account. The punishment of athletes like Caster Semenya is ridiculous, unfair, and frankly racist. And we need to understand that sport is a lot more complicated than most people's conceptions of it. So yeah, I don't have the time to dig into super long.
Oh yeah, no, that's a whole other conversation. And the racism element of it is too, like how we
I would recommend is FG Signifier has an excellent video about the commodification of black athletes and mistreatment there. I would recommend people watch that video. I would recommend they watch Mia Mulder's. I haven't watched the video, but I'm just going off of like
Mia's video, sports video. I have watched it. I can affirm it.
People I trust who have seen it and have recommended it tells me it's worth recommending.
I also have a video on trans people in sports if people want to watch it. But Mia,
sorry,
no, you're okay. Promote other people. Mia, I have seen Mia's video. It is excellent. I also have a video too. Mia's video is also is great.
Both of those. Watch both of those. So yeah, just because it's a long conversation, and as a coach, my point is just that cooperative competition, or good, healthy competition, is about uplifting everyone around you. But toxically masculine competition, the type of competition that is found in the online debate, and I calling it debates, I wish there was a better term.
It's yelling at each other over each other.
And it's about drama. It's about drama. It's just about drama. It's a drama. Like you have a video about one of the instances of this recent. I don't want to talk about that, man. I just don't.
Well, here's the thing that we'll say. Like the whole this. I've seen. I'll talk about it through. I'll talk about it through myself.
Yeah.
Whenever there is like some perceived sense of, thank you so much, Andy. I will address it in a second, but thank you. That is very generous. You are lovely, Andy. I appreciate that. Whenever there is like perceived drama, there is automatically a boost in that person's platform, unless they say something like so much that they get quote unquote canceled, which is his own whole discussion. Like there's always drama. Like for my video on this creator, like
hate wanking is a really good term. I'm sorry.
Yeah, hate wanking. It is hate wanking. Well, because like what I absolutely despise is I made the video. Well, let's just say it's Vosh. We're not going to talk about Vosh specifically. I'm not going after Vosh in this thing, but I will talk about.
The reason I don't want to give him his name is this is what he wants.
I know.
And the other thing is that the issue isn't like. Let's be very clear. He's indicative of
a problem, not necessarily.
Yeah, he's the loudest member of a problem.
But just to point this out, I just want to at least state this. Like I can stop couching it, and like I made a video about Vosh, and I made very clear, as we just said right now, that when I was talking in that video, my issue wasn't necessarily with Vosh. My issue was with the topic at hand, and Vosh was an example of it, of this situation. But he was not necessarily. My goal with that video wasn't to be like, I hate Vosh. Vosh sucks. It was to be like, here is something that we're talking about that Vosh is an example of, and I'm going to use him in an example case to discuss it. However, a lot of people, like, I saw comments from people coming in being like, yeah, I'm excited for you to take down Vosh. Like, Jessie Gender took down, but like, I saw those sort of things. Like, no, but the video did well. The video performed decently well. It was my #1 video at the time because people saw it in that sort of drama field of like this person versus that person. And I hate that because it's not helpful.
It's not productive. And this is why I refuse to talk about these people in the ways that they want to be talked about. Their terms are talk about me, because it's about their ego. It's just about male ego. It is a toxically masculine form of engaging with websites. And the thing that a lot of people don't get is that it is algorithmically clever. I want to be clear, that's not a compliment. That's like saying, abusive emotional manipulation tactics are effective methods of getting people to do what you want, even if it's but like morally reprehensible methods of doing that. And none of them are unique. They're all the same thing. And I wish I had the quote on me. There's a really good sentence by a friend of mine that covered it really, 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 really well. It was from Mark Edwards, who does Ultraviolet podcast. Cool guy, really, really nice. Legitimately someone I'd call a trans accomplice. But and he was talking about it, and he described them in such a specific way that was perfect. But it's like, it's just they're obsessed with attention. They're desperate for it in a really weird way. And I want to be clear, because like, I like attention. Obviously, I make art. Like,
were YouTubers,
know, like, I'm
like
not
that's the whole point. Yeah.
But they project a lot of their things around it, and I like that entire conversation earlier when I was talking about like savior mentalities. I was talking about them.
Yeah,
I was talking about them.
Well, like here's the other
It's
thing
not
too, and
just
I'll discuss this here because I was debating making a video out of it. I was debating making a video about it, but I didn't want to give it more steam. But so I'll just mention it here just so it's out there somewhere. But like, if you go and watch the video of Vosh responding to my video, the first thing he does is frame, before even knowing who I am. I don't know if he knew me beforehand. Before he knew who I was, before he had watched the video, he, number one, called me a racist who said the N-word. Without knowing who I was, by the way. I would hope my body of work would prove. Yeah, I hope my body of work showed that not the case. And then immediately said, like, this person in this video, hates me and is just wrong, and like they don't understand me, and like framed my video before even knowing me and watching the video in an adversarial way, so that if he had started the video and it turned out that his assumption was like correct, that I was being antagonistic to him, he has already framed and prepped his audience to be angry and hate me and already assume that I'm a terrible person. Therefore, framing this debate in this very black and white sort of binarized way automatically before even hearing the conversation, which is why, and I heard some people say like, Jesse, you were like very, very kind to Vosh, and you said it repeatedly. It's why repeatedly in that video, not just to be clear, like I had to say it. I had to say over and over and over again, this was not about Vosh, because I wanted to be very clear that it wasn't about him and his ego. And that's why it was like, it was not, it's like, I like, again, I'm not, and also that whole idea of like framing me as a racist stuff, it's meant to also put me on the defensive, to be like fit into that narrative, like now I have to defend myself against being called a racist if I engaged in that sort of stuff. And it's like, I don't care, like I don't care.
It's not worth engaging with, because they're like, I cannot stress this enough. I know these guys. I went to high school with them. They're fucking children. Like, these people are less mature than most of the kids I've coached. And the majority of the kids I've coached are under the age of 10. Like, I want to be very clear. When I watch them, all I think about is, oh, it's that annoying 5-year-old I coached. Like, literally, it's same behavior. It's just, look at me, I'm being an asshole. Like, okay, cool. That's...
Oh, happy birthday, Chloe. Sorry.
It's so tiring. And I'm tired at how much air they occupy. And that and I wish we didn't have to talk about any of it, but the reality is that I've dealt with transphobic, ableist harassment from those people's fans for 3 years. 3 years. And half the time, I don't even know why they're coming after me, because I don't know about their drama. I'm not kidding. I'll say shit like, you know, being misogynist is never acceptable. It is only ever harmful to trans people. And suddenly I'm getting, you know, like, how dare you say that Vosh is the worst person on the planet? And I'm like, why? And why does me talking about misogyny mean you're defending him? What, like, it doesn't make any sense. You realize something. He is so consistently bigoted that his fans jump on people talking about bigotry in any context as if it's about him. That is wild.
Well, it's also exactly, number one, it shows you like how bigotry is essentialized in a person that we were talking about earlier, but it also speaks to like, it always comes back to like drama, and because like this whole conversation started with my, like, it wasn't my video that started up because other people were talking about it beforehand, but like this whole conversation began as a conversation about like, like J.K. Rowling. Like J.K. Rowling was the subject, and we were talking about her. And like number one, that's its own drama that we're like focusing on one specific person. So like J.K. Rowling has her own like centralized drama. But the issue was that, about that. But then this whole thing with Vosh then became morphed to be about Vosh's fighting with ContraPoints and Kat. And I'm not going to speak about the specifics of it. I'm just going to talk it in generalized terms. Like, the conversation shifted from being about the larger, more important discussion about, like, the harm J.K. Rowling causes to be about this internal, tangential, who gives a crap drama between Kat Black, ContraPoints, and Vosh. Because it all comes down to being about drama about these people. And I'm not talking about. I'm talking about Vosh, not Kat Black and Contra.
Yeah. And it's not about those two. Like, fuck, I have some massive disagreements with Contra, and I'm really happy with how she handled that entire situation. Frankly,
me as well. Like, I have issues. I have issues with Contra overall, but I appreciate the stuff there. Yeah.
And again, because we have fucking nuance, and I don't see people as inherently good or bad. But what I do see is someone who has been so consistently horrid to all of my friends, and whose community behaves this way, and whose followers behave this way, and the other content creators in his sphere behave this way, and I want to never have to think about these people again. But because they're so hungry for drama, they manufacture it. And this gets down to, and I want to be clear, I think a lot of the problems with them have nothing to do with them. They have to do with algorithmic issues with the platforms that we exist upon, particularly Twitch and Twitter. So, one, Twitch gets extra draw when it's spicy drama time. It pulls people in because it's happening in real time. It's like mid-2000s reality TV shows. It's the exact same appeal, right? It's Jersey Shore. It's Jersey Shore. Oh, look, Polly's punching a random person. Ha! Like, it's mid-2000s Jersey Shore. It's Jersey Shore. It's
oh my
Real
god.
Housewives.
Oh my god. I want to use that. That's great. It's great.
It's Jersey Shore. It's Real Housewives. It's meaningless. But at the same time, they also get to claim that they're warriors out there, being fighting. Ugh. And it's like it's that thing with the glitter where I'm like, how is this not the most fucking funny thing on the entire planet? These pathetic, weird little egotists running around being like, I'm important, care about me. And,
and it's
and I think the best response and at this point is to just completely stop taking them seriously.
This is also like an interesting comparison that I'm thinking about too. It's like, for them, the battle, the issue, like talking about trans rights, talking about these issues is like the way to get them fame and the way to get them attention. Whereas, like, I think for us, and I'm not meaning this to aggrandize us, is talking about these issues is something that we care about and is deeply important to us, but often it is the thing that is what we have to deal with in order to do the things that we actually really love and care about. Like, I would much rather spend all of my days just wearing a Starfleet uniform talking about Star Trek and never having to mention trans issues at all. But I have to, because I feel like it's part of the work that I need to do.
When I started, I can talk about this perfectly. When I started writing the Matrix video, do you know what it was about? It was just about my love of a film that connected to me as a closeted trans person. It connected emotionally for me. And as I worked on it for 6 months, I watched a series of things and realized that I couldn't just let it be about that because of the society we live in and the violence that we experience. And yeah, originally I was going to talk about, like, goofy dipshits not getting the point and not getting the metaphor and, like, haha, film theory doesn't understand film.
And by the way, Super Desi, Aronach is getting writing credits on my scripts. She's already getting freaking writing credit on my James Gunn script, so don't you worry. Aronach is getting writing credit. So
like, I don't want to sit down and talk about upsetting facts about the violence that I experience. But if I don't, then the narrative gets to be crafted by a bunch of whiny little dipshits on Twitch who have no skin in the game, who are only talking about my issues to either aggrandize their own ego because they feel like they're saviors to trans people, or because it gets them clout and attention. Because talking about trans people, not with us, not about our issues, but about us existing, is algorithm munch for these dipshits.
Mm-hmm.
And I am done with it.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of it. In an ideal world, that Matrix video would just be fun. I just get to have fun. We'd just be having the jokes about how much I love the fight scene and stuff. I wouldn't be talking about the fact that the subway scene is a metaphor for Lana's suicide attempt. But here we are, because the world doesn't let us get to do that. So I don't talk about political issues because it gets me clout or because it gets me attention or something. I talk about it because the violence that I experience is literally life and death. I have experienced, as an adult trans person, multiple attempts on my life in public. That is a reality. So every time these guys act like what they're doing has any import on the world, when I know for a fact that several of their fans are extremely conservative weirdos who went to my university that I had to deal with, whose transphobic viewpoints came from those debate bros, including Vosh and Zanderhall, I can directly fucking tell you right now, I have experienced bigotry because of them, directly. This isn't a hypothetical, and I do not care how much money they have raised. It will never make their behavior acceptable.
Yep.
Ever.
Yep.
You don't get to pay off bigotry.
Yes.
And there's my rant. I've held that in for like 3 years.
I'm glad to give you an outlet
about them publicly, but at a certain point, I can't hold it in anymore. And I think my realization here is and you said it perfectly, is that we are forced to do this because it's necessary, because we have to, because there are people in this society like the Republican governors passing bills, like the Republican senators passing bills, like the Republican former senator of Minnesota, who yesterday called for us to all be shot. I don't get to pretend like this is a hypothetical.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it comes down to. Look at how they talk about these issues. Hypotheticals. The violence I experience isn't hypothetical.
And it sucks because, number one, first off, thank you for sharing all that. I appreciate that, and I just want to say thank you for sharing it. But I also think I
didn't mean to have that sitting in there, just burning.
No, but I want to appreciate your number one, thank you for your anger and thank you for your vulnerability on both fronts. But also I'll end this up because I do want to end the stream up too soon because I need to. But I want to do two things before I wrap out. First off, I want to just say what frustrates me most is I do. Enjoy is the wrong word, but I appreciate being able to do this work to talk about trans issues. It is something it matters a lot to me, and I feel very fulfilled doing it. But I also am frustrated that it's it takes me away from doing other things that I want to do. I look at some friends, I have friends of mine, and this is just my own internal thing, but it's just something that I think about. I have friends of mine, I have cis white dudes who are friends of mine that I went to college with, who are now working on Star Trek. They do work on Star Trek shows, and I'm if I had followed that path of not having to talk about trans issues or other things, would I have gotten there sooner or things like that? I don't know. It just frustrates me too, because it's I care about these stuff, and I don't get me wrong, I want to do it. I'm fulfilled by it. It is something that I feel really called to do, but I also am I wish I could just dance and be in a Starfleet uniform all day. And then the second thing too is people have been calling, and this is something that many marginalized people feel we have to fight these fights and we don't have to focus on the things that we deeply care about. And then secondly too, thank you for reminding me. It's something I always try to do, but I always like to be reminded of it. Morgan the Pirate Queen, I think, said it, and other people were calling for it. Remind me, I have a few videos on my plate that are harder topic videos, but I want to make and I've made some fun videos too that are Star Trek fun, but I need to make a video again about some beautiful things in the trans community. So remind me, chat and patrons and everyone, over some point in the next few months, remind me that I need to do a video that is just pure trans joy and just sharing trans joy in the near future. So remind me to do that. I will do that. I just want to make sure that that's a thing to remind you, because we've been talking about some harder stuff here, and so I want to make sure we focus on trans joy in the near future. And so I just wanted to say those two things. But other than that, Aronok, is there anything that you want to wrap up? Because I want to head out because I need to get some food and dinner.
Working on the Ringo Bingo video right now. That's my fun video, because the last yeah, like working on that Matrix video was fucking hard. Like it's been tough. I woke up the other day and every single major point I had made was just being reinforced within a single day. Putin supporting J.K. Rowling's transphobia, showing the interconnections between media personalities and political figures that make anti-trans legislation, which is a major point of the video that I'm making. The CBC's continued platforming of transphobia without any sort of critical analysis. They had Graham Linehan on and basically let him claim that trans people stole his wife. I'm not kidding. There was no pushback from a journalist.
Yep.
At that statement. And the same day, the admittance from the Republican governor that the point of the anti-trans legislation is to kill us, which is the major point of the entire middle section of the Matrix analysis section. Like that's what it's all about. That's how those things interconnect. So, yeah, you know what? It's been tough. I've had a tough couple of weeks. I'm still kind of in the high of.
No, we're. I mean, that's why I did that one video a few weeks ago. It's been rough.
I want to talk about something fun for 5 minutes, and. Lady Knight and I have been. This has been our fun project because she's also working on a very, very heavy piece about the Holocaust, and I would highly recommend people watch her interview with Rich.
Which is great. It's a good interview. I forget the gentleman's name. I'll pull it up. But Lady Knight just did a really wonderful interview talking about like Holocaust
Rich
films. Is really good.
Professor of film who specialized in Holocaust film history. An incredibly insightful Jewish academic. And
I will pull up the gentleman's name. Is
the other video that you need to watch from Lady Knight is on Jojo Rabbit.
Rich Brownstein.
So, yeah, Rich Brownstein. Thank you. So, what we've been working on is a fake documentary about the totally real greatest director of all time, Ringo Bingo. And it's about his incredible life story. And I think we should run out with a little bit of comedy. Why don't we do that? Yeah. I'm gonna read a teeny tiny teaser of that video in accents. I just need to find a good one that I wanna read.
Please do. Sorry, I'm also gonna order my food. See, I haven't had dinner yet, so I'm ordering dinner now, and we'll sort of wrap out the stream. But while you're pulling that up, I will say, everybody, please go subscribe to Aeronaut. Aeronaut is the wonderful person who has been with me this entire video. We've referenced it multiple times, but their Matrix video is absolutely freaking amazing. I am in it, if that's a thing that gets you to go watch it, but you should watch it anyways because it's freaking great. Also, Midnight Mass, your Midnight Mass video is also wonderful. Also, your entire channel is wonderful. You talk about like how things are inherently, or like our queer, your Destiny video is also very good.
I talk a lot about queer theory and queer representation,
yes.
But in a... Yeah, I'm excited for the long term of that series. Fans of your channel will be interested to know that one of the videos I have planned in the /intentionally queer series, which is my series I've kind of been working through. The first section was about films that have no queer intention, but how and why queer people read ourselves into things, and why the necessity for that is a problem. And also what Alice's heteronormativity is, and what the queer gaze is, and so that was Tron Legacy and Alice. I'm really proud of those. The second section is about the conflict between the systems of capitalism and studios and bigotry, and trying to make queer art, and how often queerness has to be shoved into metaphor, which creates the queer readings from the first section. And the first one's about Matrix, but I have planned for that section of the series is also going to include a video on Deep Space Nine, which fundamentally the production of Deep Space Nine is the story of a bunch of artists trying to make queer representation, while one bigoted shithead named Rick Berman constantly stopped them. Fuck Rick Berman.
That's my next Sex and Star Trek video too. It's gonna be great. We're gonna cover
two different aspects, and we're gonna which that one I won't be doing for a while, but when we get to it, because it'll be fun, because I'll be talking a lot more in depth about like the queer reading, and I'll be going through like a bunch of different episodes in the way that I do. So I think we'll have crossover, and I think they'll be complementary.
And plus,
videos.
It's always good to like hear more about Deep Space Nine from different even if we
I'm
said the same exact thing, like read the same script with different voiceovers, I think people would find it valuable.
and so I definitely be doing that with Jessie, And then the last one for that I have planned for that section is about Lego Batman, but really it's about how Lego Batman is about queer readings of superheroes in the Hays Code, because that's actually what it's about. So I'm also going to be doing a queer reading of Raimi's Spider-Man and why it's about assimilationist gays. You know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy is a really shitty conservative white gays fantasy. Venom is like an actively, like, queer person in the third film. I'm excited for that one.
I mean, they made that metaphor much more literal with Venom too. So it's like it's not inherent.
Yeah,
it's inherent within Venom.
Oh, it's so there. It's so there. Like there's a lot going on there. What a fascinatingly weird series. There's a lot of Christian essentialism in there. It's really fun. The point that I'm going to make is that all superhero stories, to some degree, inherently hold a queer reading, but that doesn't mean it's a good thing to apply a queer reading. And I'm going to make a point by doing Raimi and be like, haha, see, this sucks. I hate this. Once I realized this, negatively impacted how I enjoy these films. Whereas Lego Batman is fundamentally queer cinema in sort of the same way that The Matrix is, and it knows it, and it knows it couldn't get away with saying it out loud, so it just keeps doing all the implication. But, like, for example,
I mean, it's a found family film,
Batman,
number one. But anyways,
it's a found family film. Batman and the Joker have a weird romance that's great. I love that Harley's just the Joker's supportive lesbian friend. Like, it Joker's this poor gay who just can't get his boyfriend to care about him, and Harley's his supportive
I said this literally the other day with, like, the Matt Reeves.
That's why Lego Batman's Joker is the best Joker.
Oh, I said this literally the other day with Matt Reeves. They released that Matt Reeves like scene with the new Joker, and I watched it. I'm like, it's fine, whatever. It's the Joker. It's the same Joker that they've been trying to doing since
Really
Dark
don't
Knight.
love the ableism in the design of that character.
Yeah, there's also Well, but my point is, like, we can dissect that a whole other day
that's
too.
a whole.
But the point is like, can we just, like, I just want a fucking gay live action Joker who is, like, it's very clear that he has just unrequited love for Batman.
Well,
my favorite version of that is not just like a Batman, it's Batman Arkham Origins, which, like, that whole game has a sequence with Joker where you play as the Joker and you fall in love with Batman, and he's using language so romantic that Harley, who he is specifically talking to, thinks it's about her and falls in love with him because of it, but he's actually talking about his love for Batman, and I fucking love that scene.
I love the translation of Lego Batman, because I think if you're gonna do the Joker for kids, I think, yes, I get what you mean by Olam, but I'm gonna get into it. Lego Batman is a film that is all queer. Like, none of the characters are cishet, so it's not. I have no issues with queer-coded villains if and only if the primary characters are also queer. The problem with queer-coded villains isn't that there are villains that are queer. The problem with queer-coded villains is that the only character is queer. The only villainous character is queer. That's the problem. The only queer character is
often with many tropes, it's not necessarily the trope in and of itself that's harmful. It's the ubiquitous and the isolation of it.
For example, I actually have zero issues with Ursula, and the reason that I have zero issues with Ursula is that Ursula was actually written by queer people, and I think fuck Disney. Like, fuck
just
Disney,
generally, and also for, yes,
but also specifically for not allowing stuff. But, like, I do have a soft spot for Ursula, and I would love if I could like adapt a Disney film and actually make an interesting live action adaptation. It would be basically Maleficent, but for Ursula, where Ursula is just explicitly trans. That wouldn't be the first explicitly trans Ursula, by the way. The Spanish voice actress for Ursula was a trans woman.
Oh shit, I did not know that.
Really good video by Why is his name missing from my
And
head?
then, sorry, I just want to send people.
yeah,
Sorry, LA. Is there something? Sorry, I just want to see something because someone has a concern in chat. Or sorry, I just want to make sure.
Oh,
Probably
sorry.
messaging me. No, it's okay. How do I ask about? Oh, LA. If you have an idea for me to send a video, please feel free to DM me or tweet at me or anything like that. Or send me an email. I always try to read them. I don't always respond, but if you have an idea that you want me to just address, I can't guarantee I will. But if you want to shoot it at me, I would love to hear it because there have been like the video the other day where I was talking about like how like the pile on of emotion with being a trans person. That was actually a topic suggestion from someone in my Patreon Discord. That was sort of like, it was relating to what I was feeling. It's like not an untrue video, but like the idea to make a video was from someone in there. So please send me ideas. I love ideas from people. So Lost Street, please feel free to DM me.
I just saw the super chat from Stomp10 saying, "Did you know there's a transgender transformer?" Oh, it goes a lot farther than that. Technically, all of the Transformers, the new canon of the new canon comics, all Transformers are inherently trans because they define their gender themselves. And there's a bunch of non-binary Transformers. Transformers inherently didn't really have a gender. Gender is a social construct that they learned from flesh species.
Cause flesh species suck. We suck.
no, but I love it. I love that.
That's
like,
great. That's wonderful.
The Transformers basically just
thank you, Nick. You're lovely.
So, Transformers are the most extreme form the most extreme form of performative gender. Like they are hardcore on that Judith Butler kick.
Hell yeah. I mean, formers.
Trans, just trans. The Transformers.
Oh my god, I love it.
Transformers form a polycule. That's an actual thing that happens.
Oh my god! Wait, no, I did not see that, Emily. Sorry, no, sorry. I just saw. Sorry, The Great Mouse Detective is one of my favorite movies of all time, and someone just reframed the entire. Emily just reframed the entire movie for me with Rowan. Apparently, like right now, Radigan and Basil of Baker Street are exes. They so are. I never caught that.
It's not even. Yeah, that's a thing. I've seen a video about that somewhere. I can't remember who made it, but yeah, that's a thing. Sorry,
my mind just got blown a minute. Sorry, I apologize. Holy shit. That just blew my mind because that movie is one of my favorite freaking movies of all time, and I'm so excited about that. Okay. Anyways, we should wrap out the stream because I did order food and food's gonna come. But this is great. Aronach, just come on more because you give me so much energy. I'm here for Super Desi. We'll talk more, but I'm here for Super Desi's idea of making you a regular guest if you're ever down.
I love that. Yeah.
I'm gonna wrap out because I'm getting hungry and my food's on the way. Aronach, any last plugs before we go? Last things that you want to say?
Go watch the Matrix video.
Do
and
it.
If you like the Matrix video, go support my Patreon because
Mike Flanagan does, so you should too.
I want to make that Matrix Resurrections video, and I do really need to hit 300 before I do it because I need to be able to pay Molly for soundtrack. I was only able to pay for the soundtrack for the Matrix video because FD hired me to do animations on the Drake video.
Well, there you go. But yes, please go support Aronach. Go watch their video. Go support their patron. For me, I will just make announcements. Trying to think if there's anything that's going on. Working on the James Gunn video. That's not gonna be out for a hot minute. I already announced I'll be at Mission Chicago. There will be a video this Friday. Sorry. Yeah, please.
To be clear, I do not discuss Matrix Resurrections or Matrix Reloaded or Matrix Revolutions in my Matrix video. It is purely about the first Matrix film. I will eventually. I want to make the Matrix Resurrections video, and I will talk about the entire series and the Animatrix and a bunch of other stuff. But this video has zero spoilers as long as you've
seen the first Matrix.
You've seen the first Matrix, but I mean the first Matrix doesn't really have a lot of spoilers to give anyway. It's a mockery of Joseph Campbell's monomyth. So if you know the monomyth, you basically know the structure of the story. Anyway,
but yes. So with that, for me, because I do too many freaking things, I do have a video coming out this Friday. If you're a patron, you're gonna get it on Monday. It is a dissection of all the themes it's framed as a review, but it's actually a dissection of the themes of trauma, abuse, and mental health discussions in Star Trek Discovery Season 4. So that'll be coming out on Friday. It's technically a review, but it's actually more of that. Please check out, yes, as 8114 says in the chat, check out my Turning Red video, which I'm very pleased is actually doing really, really well in the algorithm. The algorithm seems to enjoy it. So if you're a patron, look for the Star Trek Discovery video soon. Otherwise, it'll be coming out on Friday. Check out the Turning Red video. Thank you, John. You are lovely. Love you all, my friends. Thank you, Aronach, for being here. And I will see you all on Thursday will be the next thing. So I'll see you all Thursday, my friends. And let me just turn off the stream. How do I end it? Where's the stream button? Where is the stream button?